We have an email that was sent to us that I've been saving for today. Today, we expose it all to the world. Buildings, structures that are from the previous civilization in every single state, looking so out of place. Palaces that I believe were originally meant for all of us and have since been taken over. Today, we go and visit a palace from the old world that now holds a new name, calling it the Wisconsin State Capitol Building, located in Madison, Wisconsin, where we are told that this is, of course, the fifth structure to serve as the Wisconsin State Capitol. We have seen this over and over, multiple buildings. We know here that this narrative is 100% repeating. This is not the fifth building on this site, and we all know this. Today, this narrative will be exposed to the world forever. I'm going to put the mainstream narrative into checkmate right now. We are told that in 32 AD, the people from 2,000 years ago were over in Palmyra, Syria, constructing palace cities. Stone, marble, and granite columns all over the place 2,000 years ago. Exactly like we've shown and gone into great detail about. And then we evolve and we advance so much over the next 2,000 years that we construct the first Capitol building in Wisconsin. And it's a prefabricated wood frame house without heat and without water. So what the heck happened? How can we evolve and advance from stone and granite columns everywhere in the world into wood frame sheds? If you had your eyes closed and your fingers in your ears so far, you would still hear and you would still see that we are not evolving and we are not advancing. We fully understand at this point that an event took place within the last few hundred years that took the previous civilization, an extremely powerful and an extremely advanced group of people, and removed them all. An event that set all of us back to the beginning. Dirt roads, a brand new history. Horses and wagons and outhouses. We are told that the first Capitol building was constructed in 1836, the wood shed. And here is a photo of it, supposedly. And if you ask me, it looks like something that we build today, using the same pathetic vinyl siding that we do today, and then telling all of us this ridiculous story about it. We have shown that the world population, if you go back only a few hundred years, it drops down to basically nothing. Nobody was here in the 1700s, all according to the information that we are given. 1840, 1,800 years after the palace cities in Syria. Nobody was here in the entire state of Wisconsin, not just Madison. Only had 30,000 people in the entire state. And you might say, well, that's because the USA is new. It's a brand new country. We just started in 1776. Well, the same thing is going on in Syria with a massive spike very recently in the population. Were they a brand new country? No, they were not. Just like we have shown, without even looking at the photos, without looking at the narratives, by only looking at the population data, we can clearly see that a population of nobody. They were not riding around on Seabiscuit and their wagon attached, hauling granite and carving stone, constructing palaces 150 years ago without a power tool. All better than we do today. And in a much more efficient, faster timeline. 100% something happened based on the data that we are given. Now, in 1860, the entire state of Wisconsin, the whole thing, only had 775,000 people. They didn't even have 1 million people yet. This is 1860. In 1850, only 10 years before that, it drops down to 305,000. So then in 1840, they only had 30,000 people here. This is the entire state of Wisconsin, only having 30,000 people. 10 years before it had 300,000. Do you see how fast the population's dropping here? In 1837, how many people were in the whole state of Wisconsin? Like 15, 20,000 people? How many people lived in Madison? That little city. That's the whole state of Wisconsin. So how many people lived in Madison at that time? 1 or 2,000 people? Well, here it is. Madison, Wisconsin, 1850. 13 years after the date we're talking about, where we know the population spiked dramatically. 1850, only 1,525 people. So how many people were in Madison, Wisconsin in 1837? Do you still believe what you've been told? Milwaukee, Wisconsin had 1,712 people in 1840. 1837, 3 years before. Madison, Wisconsin, half of them being children. How many people were here? Who was trained to build these Capitol buildings? And why is our population worldwide basically zero? Just 184 years ago. Who was constructing the palaces? Who was training everybody? No power tools, no shipping companies, no people. What are we seeing today? Why would a population of nobody, and half of them being children, why would they need to construct a second Capitol building in 1837 when nobody is here to even verify that this is actually happening? We are told these stories, and we all believed it for years until now. Verified by nobody and built by nobody. They are already on to their second Capitol building in Madison, Wisconsin, all because of the growing government of 4 people. They need to keep making new Capitol buildings, supposedly, to govern over nobody. Or did they know that this was the beginning of our new timeline, and they were preparing for all of us to be here, creating these fake stories before we all got here. And then we were all inserted into this fabricated system, located on the same exact site, we are told, of the present Capitol building. We're unable to verify if this second Capitol building was ever even here, because there was a population of basically nobody. A stone structure, we are told, all to explain this old world palace that is here before us today. Why did a population of nobody, a population with 0 training processes, freezing in the winters and struggling, why did this small community need to replace a palace stone structure over and over, riding their horse or donkey home to their sheds? When you really ask these questions and you look at the stories, you look at the stats that are given, lies begin to fall apart in an instant, especially when you know what to look for and have been shown where to look. If we were wrong, we would have been done by episode 10. We all know that the opposite is happening. We're all just getting started. We are growing to a bigger and bigger audience every single week for a reason. So the first Capitol building, 1836, the woodshed. Then 1837 to 1838. When nobody was there, and we know that, a stone structure is constructed. 1 year, and it's done. This is constructed by nobody. Are we all following so far? And then, by 1858, the stone structure that they built in a year is kicked to the curb, and a third Capitol building was constructed, we are told, telling us that it collapsed while still under construction, where that looks completed to me, and it looks like a destruction project. Look at our wooden shed right here at the bottom. This is a comparison between the old world and our world at the time. It's pathetic. Where it was, of course, you guessed it, destroyed by a fire. Can you believe how these stories all over the world are all fabricated and repeated, all generated by a computer, in my opinion? Just like we have shown. It's so easy for a computer to come up with these stories. We've shown this. Giving the technology that we have today back to us within the last 200 years, pretending like we are the most advanced group of all time. The lights are on now. The puppet show is over. The stage is now set for all of us to take our minds back. Our lives are so much more valuable than what we have all been told and shown. Capitol Tours and Information tells all of us there are a few tunnels that the Wisconsin State Capitol building connects to. It connects to the Risser building across the street. There is also a tunnel that continues from that tunnel down Milwaukee Street that transports utilities and steam. Tunnels that are still in use today. There is a separate tunnel that goes down East Washington Street as well, all connected to this state capitol building, all below our feet. And then, of course, the closing statement to all of us, a building that I believe was truly meant for all of us, telling us, unfortunately, the tunnels are not available to the public. Can you believe what we just read? Can you believe what is under our feet? We have shown this in Illinois, where we actually saw the tunnel under the Illinois State Capitol building. This email is verification, in my opinion, that these structures were all constructed together by the previous civilization and were all connected underground in every single city in the world. They all have tunnels. I named all the episodes that we have shown this. I don't think they're actually blocking us off from the tunnel hallways. I think the tunnel hallways actually lead to so much more. I think it would fully expose that the structures are much bigger underground. And there is a lot more going on under our feet than we could ever imagine. The Risser building across the street. So right here, we have confirmation that this structure is connected underground to the Risser Justice Center right here. Right behind this site, we have the city county building. How much do you all want to bet that the tunnel goes to that one as well? And right behind that, we have the state office building, Wisconsin Department of Health Services, and the Dane County Sheriff. I guarantee you it is all connected below our feet, and so much more that we are not allowed to see, all just to deliver some mail, of course. No, there is also a tunnel that connects down Milwaukee Street. And take a look at this. So right here, we have the state capitol building. And then we can see how close the University of Madison, Wisconsin is right here, which we will get into. But take a look how far these tunnels run. They are not just in one singular area. They extend far out. A massive web of underground tunnels and structures. We've shown in Chicago that there are structures below our feet. They've told us this, below many people's homes. And we saw that in New York. And then going on to say that there is a separate tunnel, meaning that there are multiple tunnel systems in this location alone, a separate tunnel. This one down East Washington Street. So here is East Washington. Let's start up at the top. Let's keep going down this road. And let's see where this connects to. Keep going. Let's keep going. Is that's the state capitol. Wait. There's a separate tunnel, we are told, that goes down East Washington Street as well. Is this guy telling us that there are multiple tunnels that all connect to this single point, the state capitol building? I think that's exactly what we're seeing here. Multiple tunnels, not just multiple tunnels in the whole city. It's multiple tunnels right under the city of Madison, Wisconsin that are all connected to the singular point of the state capitol building. If you're having fun, hit that like button and subscribe. We're all trying to pass Mr. Beast right now. So if you could hit that subscribe button, that'd be awesome. All right, let's keep going. Remember, we were told the second capitol was constructed on the same site as the present capitol in 1837, with a population of a couple squirrels and like 4 people. How long have these tunnels been there in this location? I personally believe it's much longer than 1837. I believe that all of this was found and repurposed. And then we are all given these fabricated stories. This email is absolutely incredible information to our research. Yet again, more going on under our feet. So much more than we understood before this research. The thing that I love most about this research is that it really is verifiable. You can all go to these places. They really are blocking us off from the site. They really do have tunnels in every city connecting to the buildings. A lot of tunnels all over the world, having millions of bones that they now call catacombs, where a lot of people buy a ticket and go and see it. We have also found a tunnel system that goes 17 levels underground, showing all of us that this place that we live is so much more than what we are told, not just on the ground, not only within the narratives, but also under our feet. Now, I found the blueprints to the basement of the state capitol building, where the area is rarely visited by the public. And they give us this photo with the description saying that it has ceiling paintings in the basement of Roman gods. I want to revisit this fire from the third Capitol building in 1903. They wanted a new Capitol building. The third one was not cutting it anymore. They needed another one. So they began researching a replacement, of course. So the fire story is that on the night in February 1904, a gas jet ignited a newly varnished ceiling in the third Capitol building. Although the building had an advanced firefighting system, the nearby water reservoir was of course empty, allowing the fire to spread, and the entire structure, besides the north wing, burned to the ground, with records, books, and historical artifacts stolen. Stolen? No. Lost in the fire. It was definitely lost in the fire. That was, of course, just random. A random fire, of course. I guess while they're trying to destroy it and get a new building. Remember, I explained this in our Minnesota Capitol building episode. These structures were all over this place. They held a ton of information inside of them. And we've seen that inside of the cornerstones. But we all know there's more, especially when there's underground structures and tunnels. But they did destroy a ton of them to hide the true past. This third Capitol building, it was here in my opinion. I believe that all of these buildings were. They were all here. They just weren't the state capitol building. All they're doing back then is taking the items of importance out of these buildings and moving them over to the other building. They had thousands of these palaces all over the place, which is why there were so many great fires in every single city, where thousands of buildings burned down in a time period where there weren't even any people. And then you wonder why nobody got hurt. And everyone is just fine, of course. We've seen the stats. Episode 59, where Baltimore just wanted to change a couple stats after that episode. On February 3rd, 2024, we released episode 59, The Great Fires Hold Flaws. Episode 59 is on Rumble. If you want to see it in the full, unedited version, released on February 3rd, 2024, as you can see right here. And just 4 days later, on February 7th, 2024, the Baltimore Magazine puts out an article changing the narrative of the Baltimore Great Fire, where the original narrative told us that the Great Baltimore Fire caused no deaths. And 4 days later, after our episode comes out, now 1 person in the blaze, with 4 more succumbing later to fire-related causes. Now tell me what you think about this in the comments below. Now let's get back to the episode. They tried to get a new building in 1903. 1904 just starts, February, and a random fire destroys the entire structure, and the water supply is missing and empty. And all the records, the books, and historical artifacts are all lost. The fire occurred just after the state legislature had voted to cancel the Capitol's fire insurance policy. And I don't believe that at all. What a weird statement to make right there at the end. That is something that a guilty party would do. They would say, I didn't do it for the insurance policy. See, I put it right there in the history. It's very odd. I promise we didn't get the insurance check for that one. We know how it works, especially when you control the system. Destroy the building with a fire. collect the insurance check, tell everybody you didn't get it, and we never find the individual who actually started the fire. It's just the random ghost. We see it all the time, even in Canada, in October 2024, when the Montreal mayor says the fire did seem suspicious. So maybe the mayor has been watching the show and actually wants to know what happened. I have an idea. How about we just get a camera installed in all the surviving structures that have a column present and holds any architecture that would be difficult for us to construct today and are supposedly constructed before 1920. Now, I'm not affiliated with Ring Doorbell. These things are like $100. Do you really think the church can't afford it? We would have a total of 0 old world buildings getting destroyed by random fires. If there were a fire, the Ring Doorbell would see it and we'd know who the mystery person was. This person would be exposed in 2 seconds. It's $100 on Amazon. They can all go get one today. It would take 10 seconds and it would be there in the morning. It's so easy to fix this issue, which is why it is so obvious that they don't want to fix the issue. These are deliberate attacks on the old world structures, and it's been going on for much longer than we ever realized. So like we showed, the state capitol is here. And wait, what is this next to the capitol? The Wisconsin Masonry Center. Okay, do you think they have a tunnel too? And right next to these two structures, we have the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Surely, all connected underground. The tunnels don't just run north. We know that they are connected all over this place. Imagine how many tunnels and underground structures are underneath this area, all blocked off from the public, just like we are told. Underneath all of these thousands of students, where they're sitting there learning about the history of Wisconsin. And you know they've never heard about the massive web tunnel network right below their dorm. This is incredible. Now let me ask you, how many of these structures from the old world were handed over to the state? Government-run indoctrination, no. I mean, education institutions. I would say these buildings have been hiding right in front of our faces and have been doing so for so long. The state of Wisconsin, having a population of 30,000 people in 1840. The whole state of Wisconsin only having a population of 30,000 people. Do you understand how small this is? This is in 1840, and the whole state decides that it needs the University of Madison, Wisconsin in 1848. The same year that Wisconsin became a state. Knowing that Wisconsin became a state in 1848, and then building multiple state capitals before Wisconsin is even a state yet. I think that's pretty odd in my opinion. Just throwing together state capitals, universities and the rest, with a population of nobody. And they don't even have a state yet. It's almost like they knew that we were all on the way. I think they did. I think they knew that we were all coming and we were all just gonna believe whatever they said. And they were setting it up, resetting it up, the reset for all of us. The Wisconsin State Capitol building underwent a destruction project that lasted 14 years. The project to supposedly restore it again takes 14 years. When they tell us the project to construct the entire building and all of the tunnels and the rest only took 11 years. So it takes 3 years longer to restore the building that's already there than it does to construct the entire thing and its tunnel network. It's absolute nonsense. This building was there and has been there for much longer than we are told. And we all know this. In the 1970s, they had sealed up the stairs in the building. From 1988 to 2002, they found these stairs and are now uncovered. And this is what we are told about. What else have they found? What did these stairs lead to that were sealed up? Then they say they lowered the basement 2 feet. Clearly, they are very interested in this underground floor, or floors, just like we are here. And I don't blame them. I wish I could see them. The fact that they are blocked off from the public is very telling. This is a building that is supposedly meant to represent all of its people. Each state capitol building in the United States presents the basic, fundamental attentiveness of the state government to the people it serves. The people it serves. The buildings are there to serve the people. The elected officials are elected by the people. They are installed by the people. These buildings are there to serve the people. Yet the building that is meant to serve the people holds tunnels, and they are not available to the people. Do you find that odd? Do you find it odd that the building is really the people's building, yet the people are restricted from seeing what's inside? Now, for the people that live in this area, if I leave this part out of the story, I'm sure we'd see it in the comments. So I will inform you all that there is a man, Robert Grunenwald, better known as Tunnel Bob, a resident of Madison, Wisconsin, a man that has been exploring these tunnels since the 1970s. And apparently he lived in the tunnels under the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Patrick Rothfuss, an author, wrote a book about Tunnel Bob called The King Killer Chronicle that won a bunch of awards and was a New York Times bestseller. Now, the interesting part is that Patrick's father apparently had access to these tunnels and gave Tunnel Bob permission to work in the tunnels. And I don't know Patrick. He's probably a great guy. Again, I don't know him. But just looking here at what's been written, in 2001, he wanted to reach his charity goal of $333,333. And then later that month, he added a stretched goal of $666,666. I'm just gonna guess, but I'm sure he'd agree with me that these are interesting numbers. Remember, Patrick's dad knew something. His father gave Tunnel Bob permission to work in the tunnels. Patrick's dad worked in the U.S. Army in the 1960s, returning then to Wisconsin and working at the Murder Hospital. And in 1988, he was named the Director of Facilities Management. So I'm guessing he hired Tunnel Bob through that hospital, which means that the hospital is also connected and holds tunnels. In his books, this character is based on Tunnel Bob, depicting a character who lives underground, a labyrinth of old tunnels and hidden rooms beneath the university. Is this a fictional book, or are there old tunnels underneath the university? What do you think? Drawing on stories and elements from the real-life Tunnel Bob, what is really below our feet right now? What did his dad tell him? Is this story based on fact? All under the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Treasures, a room filled with pipes, serving as a pathway between different areas. Is this taking place all over the world, in every single city? At this point, I do believe so. I believe we are just getting started. And I believe understanding that there are massive tunnel networks from the old world right below our feet. I believe that this is going to unlock it all and show that it isn't possible for all of the incredible palaces to be connected underground, miles apart from each other, and then blocking it all off from all of us. Something massive is off. We are not shown the truth over and over. We are given what they want us to hear, and then the rest is hidden, including facts like who constructed the first 4 Capitol buildings, which construction company was building stone structures in a year from 1837 to 1838, when nobody even lived in Wisconsin. This was not the Capitol in 1837. This was another structure that they found and deleted from the world that we all live before we all got here. John S. Fuller took this photo. And what else was he taking pictures of? I think John S. Fuller was a little confused as to what these structures were doing here and wanted to show everybody. This is a photo from the University of Wisconsin-Madison campus, showing the first 3 buildings on the campus. We can clearly see the construction that we were doing at the time. Little wooden sheds right here at the bottom. And then you have the old world's work up here on the hill. And we all know that the tunnels are underneath all that dirt already. And we have the South Hall on the left. We have the University Hall right here in the middle, and then the North Hall on the right. I wish Mr. Fuller would have taken that camera and pointed it to the right a little bit so we could have seen what's over there. I bet you it was a bunch of buildings that were incredible. You can see the old world technology on the top of these buildings. And this is what I was taught about: horses and wagons, dirt roads, and this wild, wild west looking row of hardware stores and sheds. And look at these houses. This is the construction of the time. Not palaces. The dirt roads, the wooden fences, these people were freezing in the winters. Then they have these palaces right next to them. I think this John S. Fuller was so excited the camera was invented too early, so he took these pictures to show everybody what he found. And then he probably realized that he was 100 years too early, and nobody was even going to listen to him. Imagine these people walking on the left. They had to be so confused. Or maybe they were just as blind as we were a few years ago. What an incredible photo. It's all falling apart for the mainstream narrative. We now have 100 episodes exposing so many narratives in every single continent. We now have thousands of people uniting together, keeping an eye on these old world structures all over the world. Welcome to the Old World Research, where we expose some of the most incredible sites in the world. Sites that do not belong in our timeline. Unless, of course, you understand that there was a previous civilization here that was extremely powerful, having technology that would blow our minds. Leptis Magna, located in Coms, Libya, where a massive, extremely advanced civilization was busy constructing stone structures. Columns all over the place. A palace. And I don't believe it was thousands of years ago, like we've all been told. I believe that this took place very recently, based on everything that we've seen and everything that we know. And we all know that when they begin to tell us that the city was found in the second half, not the first half, but the second half of the 7th century BC, roughly 2,700 years ago. Just pinning this date down thanks to the local bush. Like we have shown, these dates are absolutely ridiculous. They are unable to explain construction dates in the 1800s. Yet they know all about the second half of the 7th century BC, 2,700 years ago. No. Where little is known about Leptis during this time. Of course little is known, because in my opinion, this story is fabricated. Simply put, it's story hour for adults. Adults that don't want to look into information for themselves, or just haven't done so yet. We have massive stone columns all over the place. And then we are told that we are evolving and advancing so much that we end up riding around on horses, living in sheds and wiping with our hand again. Evolving from stone and granite palaces all over the place to dirt roads, outhouses, and no electricity. And out of nowhere, the 1800s hit. And every invention that you could ever imagine just starts flying at us. Everything from the phone to the plane, the train, the car, TVs, iPads, computers, you name it. Everything. This narrative is not logical. And we know this now. The previous civilization had all of these things and so much more. And their construction that is left behind for all of us to see proves this. The narratives surrounding these sites are so ridiculous, showing that they are completely made up, because we all point out the flaws in the narrative repeatedly. These sites expose the fact that we are correct, and we are not being told the truth about our history. And there is a clear attempt worldwide to suppress who we are, what we are, and what we are all doing here. When you look at this site and look at what still stands here today, you don't need a narrative to prove anything. You can see for yourself that something is off. You can see that things have been suppressed. Information, sites, including this one today. Why was this not the location that we were all given on day one? Why not? Well, we would 100% start asking questions. We would all ask, Why hasn't my town built one of these in the last 100 years? I thought we were all advancing. I thought we were evolving. I thought we were the most advanced civilization to ever live here. Yeah, it is kind of odd that that isn't every single continent in the world. Stone structures that are chiseled perfectly. It is kind of odd that we went back to donkey riding cowboys. Leaking roofs, hammers and chisels, no light bulbs, and bathing in your local pond. Just like we showed in Palmyra, Syria, in previous episodes, Libya also gets a palace theater. And again, something happened here in the 1800s, the beginning of our civilization's timeline, where part of the ancient temple was taken from the site and brought from Leptis Magna to the British Museum in 1816. And this is a photo of it. And I'll let you know something. This just might be an excuse as to why there are more columns here in England. And the real stuff was just taken from the site in Libya and never shown to us. It honestly blows my mind that nobody has ever questioned this before. Why hasn't anyone ever read this and said, yeah, that is kind of odd that they were just going to all these sites within the last 200 years and never before that, all over the world, and taking their stuff and just moving it around to different places in the world. Undocumented, not showing us exactly what was taken. All for research, right? No. Obviously, they're not showing us today everything that was taken, what items were found, and what items they still have. And then you have to ask, why did they need to take it away from the site? Just like we saw in Syria, where they took it to Damascus. They tell us that they needed to move it due to the rough climate. Yet, it was there for thousands of years and doing just fine, hiding our true past. And then telling us that questioning their pathetic, sketchy coded narrative is such a wild thing to do. Not anymore. This was a clear operation taking place within the last 200 years when Italians conquered Italian Libya in the 1900s. Our timeline. They dedicated huge efforts to the rediscovery of Leptis Magna in the early 1930s. Italian archaeological research was able to show again the buried remains of nearly all of the city. Buried remains. The event that wiped out the previous civilization, just like we have shown over and over. An event that melted structures, buried people, buried structures. A mud flood, buried remains. A necropolis was found underneath the Roman theater. Again, there is more going on under the structure than what we can see. The land that we all stand on is not even close to what is really here. We all understand this now, with the tunnels, the catacombs, and the rest. This is incredible. And I'm just gonna blow your mind right now. I'm just gonna step away from this site for a minute and show you that the old world and this topic, this research, is just insane. A 120-mile drive up the coastline, we are given the ancient theater of Sabratha. Yet again, another old world palace theater that of course was abandoned after a fire because the AI throws that into the narrative every single time. A nod showing us that it's not from our timeline, where Italian archaeologists rediscovered the theater in the early 1900s. Yet again, our timeline. Not the 1500s, not the 1400s, not 700 and not 1600s. It is consistently the 1900s or the 1800s when they begin to excavate the theater in 1927. It was no more than a mound of sand and masonry. Let's think about this for a second. Can you even imagine what is underneath all of that sand in Africa? It has to be mind-blowing. Oh, and here's our friends. They've been taking care of this site since 1982. So nice of them. And the place is totally fine, we are told, for centuries. And then as soon as our civilization comes around, yet again, The site goes on the list of World Heritage in danger in 2016. Of course it does, because there's a clear operation to destroy these structures and hide our true past. These sites are not in our textbooks for a reason. Seeing these locations, these sites, these structures, it opens the doors to understanding that the history that we are all given is total nonsense. We are not evolving. We are not advancing. We are as advanced as we are allowed to be. And that's the reality. Now that we have an understanding that this is not a one-off, and there's another one right up the road, we can now go back to the original site, Leptis Magna. Since it's located on the coast and has been for 2,700 years, we are told, the ruins are now vulnerable due to sea level rise. So for 3,000 years, everything is just fine. And then our civilization starts up and all of this chaos happens all over the world. Why didn't the oceans rise in 1492? Why not 980? Why not? Why is every situation happening now in our timeline within the last 200 to 300 years? Well, you tell me. Now I'll be clear. I'm not sure if the sea level eventually does switch, because we do see palace-like structures all the time underneath the water. I don't know what this place that we all live is capable of. I don't know what events take place here, like clockwork. I just don't believe that we all show up and out of nowhere, the ruins are now threatened by rising water levels, when this place has been parked beachfront with a great ocean view for 3,000 years, we are told. And in 1520, it was just fine. In 1180, it looked great. But in 1999, we're all worried now that the water's gonna rise. Now, if we go here on Google Earth, we're going to see that there are multiple stage-like structures. And then we also have the old basilica up here at the top. And this thing is absolutely incredible. This place right here, I think I could set up a TP and just look at it for the rest of my life. Wait till you see this. Look at the detailed stonework right over here to the left. And then look over here to the right. And there's something in this picture that I'll revisit later in this episode if you missed it. At this point, we know this was not done by a hammer and chisel community. Whoever built this had incredible tools and incredible training. Let's zoom in on this. Look at the detail with human-like figures with their heads gone. Of course they are. Just so detailed. Even on the sides here, absolutely incredible. Clearly telling us a story about where they lived and what was going on here. And then this guy's head is also gone. And then he's riding around on a griffin-like animal. And if you're on the fence about the griffin here, I'll keep going. This is so clearly, worldwide, a deliberate attack on the individual's faces. I believe this is to hide what the people actually looked like before us. I actually feel like this episode has turned into a show and tell at this point. But I feel like this site completely deserves it. I can't believe that this is a place that we can all go and see today. It does not fit in at all. And then we get this statue, where this is clearly a griffin. Hands down, no doubt about it. You even get the wings on the side. So we've seen them in every single continent now. We've seen it in Wisconsin. I believe that's episode 41. We saw it in India. We've seen it everywhere. The griffins were here. A clear connection to the old world, the previous civilization, and the flag of Tartaria. What's better than this? So we just saw that there's a griffin. Well, not just one griffin, there are two. Another one right here next to it. I am absolutely shocked that they allowed those to be seen by us today. I think we've seen enough depictions and evidence to this point, worldwide, that these griffins were here 100%. I don't think that the people of Africa were randomly depicting griffins, while at the same exact time, without cell phones, we have the same depictions over in other continents of griffins. Clearly, this animal was here and was very important. So revisiting this picture, the one I talked about earlier, you can see now what is in the middle at the top. We have the griffins looking over this place. Going over here. Can anybody tell me what this says? Or has it been destroyed too much at this point? Or check this thing out. If you're a master translator, let me know what this says and I'll post it in the future. With more just destroyed and chopped in half. And then set over here nicely. Like it just randomly fell like that. Perfectly on top of those planks of wood. No. And then check this out. Clear depictions of angels right here at the bottom. We have now seen this depiction way too many times in too many locations for it to simply be dismissed as mythology. This is a depiction of what they knew about the world, in my opinion. We've seen angels and demons depicted underground in stone structures over in Italy while constructing a road. Another angel right here. And again, I personally believe that these were depictions of the world that they all lived in, the world that they knew. And I don't believe that this was thousands of years ago. I believe that this was the world that was here a few hundred years ago. Adding the 1,000 years pushes us further away from the truth. And a massive reset took place, reinstalling all of us through orphan operations, great fires in every city to destroy the old world's work. And restart this operation, placing us back in bonnets, parking Seabiscuit the horse out front of the market to bring home jam for supper. Again, take a look at this depiction. How many angels can you see? Am I missing any? I see 1, 2, 3, and 4 up here. Continuing up this thing, look at this. We have a centaur, or in other words, a horse guy, with a giant baby angel riding around on a lion. So it's no wonder they didn't start this place off in History 101. And then this column looks like they just shaved every single one of those faces right off the side, all the way up. Oh, it's just from weathering. The weathering just attacks the faces, not the body and not the arms and not the legs. No. What an incredible location. A location that I'm so glad thousands of us will never forget. And like I've shown, there are multiple sites within this land layout. We also have the Temple of the Septimii, where they have this depiction where their legs look like snakes. Who the heck were these beings? And again, inside the museum, so many things clearly found at this site that would depict a very different history than what we've all been told. So why should the depictions that are found at the site in stone, marble, and granite, why should these depictions be less trusted than what somebody that was born in 1930 wrote inside of a book about this site? I believe that we have it completely backwards for far too long. Again, my personal trust goes towards the stone structures that were depicted at the site, rather than some guy that was born in 1930, writing all about it and telling me what to think. Again, insane detail with their heads all gone, completely hiding the past. Same thing here. It looks like they just took a saw and took the head right off these statues, as well as the arms in some cases, because they were most likely holding something. I was waiting for somebody to say this in the comments, but I'm just going to say it at this point. They possibly had more fingers than we do today. 2 Samuel 21:20. And there was yet a battle in Gath, where was a man of great stature, that had on every hand 6 fingers, and on every foot 6 toes. So this site is home to multiple palace stages, like we have shown. And like we have shown, it holds this massive arch, where there are angels all over it. It's just art, of course. And remember, Johnny Boy wrote all about it in 1947. He told us that it's all myths and there were no angels. There weren't actually angels. Why don't you try picking up a textbook once in a while? Angels all over this thing. You can also see that massive sections of the depiction have been removed. This whole area down here has been cleaned up nicely. Same thing up here at the top. And then again on the left. This statue's head is literally sawed off perfectly. I'm not sure how much clearer it can get. That they don't want us to see what was here before us. They don't want us to know. Hammers and chisels. and Donkeys Incorporated, your stone, granite, and marble shipping company, established in 2023 BCE. Rain, snow, or shine, that palace would get done. And before I forget, if you're interested in more information on the angels helping construct the old world, we have episode 75 and episode 91, where we go into great detail on this subject. Now, this place also holds the hunting baths. Again, this was found and cleared in 1932 to 1933. And just look at them. They look so different than what we're used to seeing from the past. They really look like they were constructed in the 1930s, not found then. If I had to take a guess, I would say that this has been restored by our civilization after they found them, at least the exterior. And then the chairman of the Department of Archaeology of Libya lets us know that the decision was taken to restore the hunting baths. So they have restored it. Now, what is this anyway? Supposedly constructed in the year 145. On the dot. I feel like at that point they definitely could have gave us a month. Why stop at 145? Tell us the day and the time. It was 11:14 a.m. in the year 145. On a sunny day, not a cloud in sight. And the hunting baths were being constructed. 145. Amazing. What a joke. Used for hygiene, relaxation, and a place for social interaction, and some business meetings in 145 AD. Just swinging some deals in the back. Some corn for some cabbage. There were some great business deals getting done in the baths. Now, let's check out the inside. All of this being buried under our feet until the early 1900s, our timeline. We have found so many things throughout the first 99 episodes that are under our feet. We have found incredible sites, locations that have been hidden for far too long and are now being shared with so many people. Are you ready to see massive pyramids in China? Pyramids that were built by the previous civilization and are now just being called hills. Are you ready to uncover something massive today? Here we go. We have been taught that the pyramids in Egypt were very rare. These pyramids in Egypt were an anomaly. Well, we have found that there's a pyramid right outside of St. Louis that has a temple 2 feet under its base. We have found that there is so much underneath the ground, including catacombs and tunnel systems, that is yet to be exposed. And now today, we are finding that people have just been living in a town called Anlong, located in China, with possibly hundreds of pyramids sitting all around them for all this time. In an article published on May 15th, 2024 by English.news.cn, titled Pyramid-Shaped Hills Become Popular Tourist Site in Southwest China. The article starts off saying that we are looking at several hills that resemble the pyramids of Egypt in a suburb county in China, when it goes on to say that the hills are made of parallel layers of stone, where we know that these are no longer hills. We don't need the experts' help. We've got this one covered. Parallel layered stone walls. When you can see that there is not just one, we are dealing with something massive, uncovering something that would completely change everything about what we have been told. I've told you all that we're just getting started, and that is because all of our eyes are now open. We are seeing it all now. Everything that was just hiding right in front of all of our faces, somehow, right in our towns, will now be brought to light. 99% of us were under some sort of trance. For some reason, we were all unable to see these types of things all over the world. Buildings that don't belong in our timeline at all. Walking or driving right past them every single day. But now that we have the knowledge, we can now see what is right in front of us. And the trick no longer works, which is why everyone in the world now needs to see this information so that they don't live in a town with hundreds of pyramids right next to their local coffee shop and think that old world pyramids are just hills. like we've all been told. At this point in time, I feel like we are being shown the truth. At no other point in our timeline has this information, the truth, been flying at us at this speed. When we are finished, no pyramid will be unexplored. Nobody is going to think that these are just hills. We all understand that if we were just told that these were pyramids and not hills, that it would show that the mainstream history that we've all been told is not the full picture. In fact, it would show that the narrative is possibly 100% fabricated or very close to it, showing that they've been saying that pyramids have been hills for so long, and now changing their mind would let doubt creep in, and people would start asking questions like we are today as to what else could be a pyramid. What other hill just has a temple laying underneath it? This is exactly what we're asking. This would all show that the mainstream did not include the previous civilization into their narrative. A civilization that built all of the pyramids, all of the buildings. They had incredible technology, and they were not here as far back as we all thought. A civilization that was capable of constructing not just one pyramid, but hundreds of pyramids all over the world. And that tools have been here, advanced technology and the rest. This lie would be completely exposed. Now, as you can see, something happened and is now triggering the release of this information. All of these articles, all of these companies are now writing about these hills that have supposedly been there the entire time. Why now? Have they always been there? Of course they have. We have all just gone from VCR straight to 4K, a shift in consciousness, or you can call it an upgrade, now allowing us to see things that are in this realm that we all live, which means that these now need to be explained now that we can see them, which is exactly what they're doing. Where in an article written by the Global Times, they don't even give us a person. They just tell us that the Chinese media outlet, Eyes News, they found their guy, a professor that would back their story up, saying that the mountains were, of course, natural happenings, which is why they have their pyramid-like shape. When he was asked, why do these natural happenings have parallel layered stone? He replied that they date back 200 million years to the early to the middle Triassic ages. Pinning this date down, 200 million years. Right. 200 million years ago, the early to the middle Triassic ages. This guy is just amazing. So the professor is just on it. He is the guy that should be fully trusted. Pinning this date down in his dreams. Where does he even come up with a number like this? 200 million years ago. Why didn't he just say 150 million years ago? Why not 800 million years ago while you're at it? I'm going to be very clear. This so-called professor has zero clue about what happened 200 million years ago. In fact, we don't even know if there was a 200 million years ago. It's very possible that never happened. These articles, these dates, are not fooling anyone anymore. Just throwing nonsense out there, pretending to know all about the year -200,000,001 or -200,000,002. It's ridiculous. All because we asked a professor who studied their books. This is no longer classified as factual information. If it looks like a pyramid, it has parallel stones laid over and over and over, exactly like we have seen in Egypt, then we will start at that conclusion and work from there. We are not going to research from the standpoint of guessing about 200 million years ago. From that point of view, you will find nothing. You will go to sleep, wake up, look at the pyramid and think it's all because a T-Rex decided to take a crap there and think it's a hill, exactly like they like it. And to show that we are all just getting started, staying in China, and a documented U.S. Air Force pilot's account of what he saw in 1945, saying that he was flying between India and China when he saw a pyramid that would put Gizas to shame. Pure white on all sides. And then 2 years later, Colonel Maurice reports the exact same experience. And the New York Times runs his story. This tells me that China has some pyramids that we definitely haven't been told about, and we need to investigate further. So these accounts, we now know, took place in a province of northwestern China, where we know that they have nearly 40 known pyramids in this location, where they're covered with trees and grass. So what is this group hiding from us? Why cover up hundreds of pyramids and tell us they are just dirt from 200 million years ago? Why do this? Again, it would change everything. It would show us that there was an extremely advanced civilization that was here very close to our timeline, most likely wiped out by an event. And they were able to construct pyramids all over the world, over and over and over, which is why they have to call them hills, because this would blow 99% of people's minds today. Are these naturally forming? Do you need the professor's help? I don't think you do. I personally think that people used to like that comfort of thinking that the professors could figure it all out. Where that's all changed now. We no longer need somebody's help, someone that has read all of their indoctrinated books and has sat up nicely in their seat in the front row. We don't need this guy to tell us about 200 million years ago. We definitely don't need that type of thought process anymore. We understand that there is a much more likely possibility sitting on the table of how all of these structures all over the world were created and why they are here today. Places that you can go and see all for yourself. You can go inside most of them. Basilicas, cathedrals, temples, caves, or melted structures. And of course, pyramids. It's incredible, all over the world. And it's not because a little rain came down and splashed the dirt off the ground and created a perfect pyramid. There isn't a single naturally forming pyramid in the whole world. Nature doesn't form 90-degree angles. It does not form pyramids that have perfect parallel stonework. We all understand this now. We are seeing right through the nonsense. And it no longer takes us all months to process this. Thousands of us. We get it now right when we see it. We are told that the Chinese pyramids of that region are built of mud and dirt and are more like mounds than the Pyramid of Egypt. This was reported by the Science newsletter in 1947. But of course, the region is little traveled. So let me know in the comments if you think these things are really made of mud and dirt, or if they are just covered by it and something massive is hiding underneath. When Western archaeologists have, to this day, rarely been permitted to investigate the sites, overgrown by shrubs and abandoned at first glance, going on to say that the shrubs are clearly deliberately planted. Planting many cypress, one of the fastest growing trees out there, hiding this right in front of our faces for years. Until now. Now I'm going to go to Google Earth. I'm going to show you that you can't even drop the guy down and look at these places. Right outside of the city, we have multiple pyramids right here, covered by trees, unexplained by the mainstream narrative. These are pyramids of the previous civilization, in my opinion, that are still here today. We have another one over here, all around the same city. We're not traveling thousands of miles, just like we saw in Anlong to start this episode off. They're all over the place. Here's another one. And then we have this one over to the left and another one over here to the right. We have two more over here. So are you understanding how the narrative has been manipulated? How it's not just information that has been suppressed. It's also massive pyramids. And then we have these two, where if we change the angle here, you can see that there is a circle here that seems to have significance, leading straight to this pyramid, where it has the crosshairs right here, with a bunch of trees to try to cover it up. It's very strange. And you can even see the door opening that was once here, or possibly still is. And you can see how close it is to the other pyramids. I've got a question. Why does this massive pyramid not have a name or a story? Giving this pyramid a name or a story would change everything. It would be an admission that what we have been told is a massive lie. they would have to explain why they've been covering this thing up with trees and dirt. Could you imagine living here? These people live here, next to 2 pyramids, and the pyramids have no name and no story. Just a bunch of trees and dirt covering them up. No, those aren't pyramids. Those are just dirt mounds, of course. And everybody agrees, all because a professor went to his room one night and said, it's from 200 million years ago. This is insane. So I want to go back to Anlong, China, where we have cave openings. We've seen that cave openings are, in my opinion, just front entrances to a bigger overall structure. We have this ridiculous name, where we have seen them name things like this and mock us all over the world. So we have this cave, and then we have this cave over here. Again, these are entrances to the pyramid that we have shown at the beginning of this episode. We are not allowed to drop this guy down on Google Earth, which should be very telling, not allowing us to see what's going on there. There are 0 articles about these places. We are simply being blocked off from our true past. So we remember that the professor said that these were naturally forming hills from 200 million years ago. Well, we know that they are stone, and we know that they have caves. How are they going to explain the caves to us? Oh, in the second half of 133 million years ago, the water level spiked for 40 years, and the current chiseled out the stone hill accidentally. And what do you know? Now there's a cave. It's weird how nature works back in the day. How ridiculous. And to show that there are so many structures that need to be explored. Structures that are brushed off as hills from millions of years ago, accidentally brushed into by a rhinoceros from millions of years ago. Not just in China, but all over the world. We can go to Utah, USA, more specifically, Wayne County, where we are told that there is a pyramid that was formed during the Jurassic period. So, if they find a pyramid, they chalk it up to the dinosaurs. Can you believe this? Or they just cover it up with trees and dirt and pretend like it's not even there at all. And don't say anything about it and act like we shouldn't see it either. But if they find a cave in India while on a tiger hunt, like we just saw in episode 73, then they can pin an exact date on it somehow and explain the whole thing away. We are told that this thing is composed of sandstone that formed 180 million years ago, give or take a few hours. They took samples home and tested it. Just trust them. They know all about the year negative 180 million. In fact, they know all about the year negative 181 million as well. It is pretty cool being a certified scholar. You just get to make up any date you'd like. 180 million years ago, on the dot. Amazing. These experts help us a lot, telling us that because it's in a hot, dry climate for the last 180 million years. So we have steady climates for 180 million years. Nice to know for those that are in Utah. You can enjoy that climate for years to come. So 180 million years of hot, dry climate. Wind blowing over sand dunes, creating large sweeping crossbeds, dating all the way back to the Jurassic ages. Wow. Incredible how they know all of this. I think the local spider was documenting all this and hid it underneath some of the sand. It's incredible. Long after the sedimentary rocks were deposited, the Colorado Plateau was uplifted relatively even. It's just amazing. Keeping the layers roughly horizontal. They have all of this on camera. It's documented in the Colorado Scrolls. No, it's not. But the Capitol Reef was an exception, of course, because of the water pocket fold, which formed between 50 and 70 million years ago. You know, somewhere between then, give or take. Not 40 million and not 80 million. A much more obvious answer to this is that it is a structure that 100% looks melted. It is not from 70 million years ago. It is from the previous civilization, with an elevation of 6,211 feet. This was a massive structure that proves how incredible this previous civilization really was. And right next to this structure, we have an arch. It's called the Cassidy Arch, that the mainstream will tell you that the local Bronchiosaurus used as a hangout spot, running away from the T-Rex, where they know that the Bronchiosaurus was a peaceful animal. They were there and know all about the year -150 million. No, they don't. Not even close. Now, we have some incredible pictures of this place. Is this not a tree that is now turned into stone? It's just incredible. You can see that an event took place and has completely melted this place. And you can see just how big things were before. We have some other angles of this melted palace. And then we have this shot. You can see that the front of this place was cut perfectly. This is not natural at all. Perfect 90-degree angles and arches into stone is not a natural occurrence, especially when right next to this melted structure, right next to Cassidy Arch, we have Hickman Natural Bridge, where they're telling us that nature just forms stone bridges now too. They're telling us nature forms pyramids, arches, and bridges, all here accidentally during the Jurassic period. This is what we have been told. Can you believe this? I really hope you all can see after this how crazy the narrative is. We have more perfectly formed arches that they just haven't got around to naming yet. Clearly an opening to another structure right here. And if this picture doesn't get you, then I'm not sure what will. In my opinion, this is clearly a structure from the old world that was built and has since been melted. This was not from sandstone blowing in the wind 150 million years ago. It's not even close to that. There are so many of these arches. This place must have been incredible. This is the complete opposite of naturally forming. We have these structures with even more arches over here. You can see how big they are too, compared to the people standing below. And up here, they look like they used to be windows. This is definitely a place I'd love to visit and see if there are any openings with a few more photos to show that this is not naturally forming, to show that this place has a much deeper history, a much more meaningful history than what we have all been told, where we are all here to learn and grow, and we are no longer being held back from doing that. We are finding more and more evidence every single week that our true past is so much more exciting and entertaining than what we have been told and what we have been shown in our classrooms. We are seeing structures that have arches, windows, doorways, bridges, pyramids that have been hiding under trees and still are. But they are now being discovered by thousands of people. Locations named Cathedral Valley. Are we being told what these structures used to be? Are these melted cathedrals? Today, we are going to investigate a location that does not belong in our historical narrative. Situated 7,000 feet high, located in Turkey, we have Mount Nemrut. Yet another location that definitely should have been headlined in History 101. This place should have been one of the first things that we were all told about. Yet my history classes mentioned this location a total of 0 times. Clearly these heads did not fit into our narrative, where they are 100% destroyed. We can see that 7,000 feet up in the mountain did not matter to the past. Any altitude would do just fine. With their hammers and chisels in hand, they would climb up the mountain, construct perfect statues, and be back home for dinner. The narrative tells us that the pattern of damage to the heads suggests that they were deliberately damaged, where it is admitted. And of course, they will never know who it was that destroyed them, where they are trying to tell us that they know exactly who built them and the exact year, where they tell us that it was 62 BC, not 61 and not 63. but negative 2086. They have all of this written down in their journals. No. And they begin to give us backstories on these statues, telling us that they were once seated with names of each god inscribed on them. How would they know this? That they were once seated with names of each god inscribed on them. How would they know this? Unless, of course, they were the ones that removed it. It's very interesting. Where at some point, the heads of the statues were removed from their bodies. Now, within this community, we have shown exposing massive lies within the narrative that we have all been told. We show that there was a previous civilization here, a civilization that was extremely advanced. We have documented where a lot of them may have gone. We have also shown how our current civilization today has been repopulated. We know that there are groups funding these projects, funding these narratives to keep this previous civilization out of our history books. And these groups that were created in the last 60 years continue to go to these incredible sites and destroy them. Renovate them. Where this photo shows their work, in my opinion. You can see the heads at the bottom. And then you can see the stones were placed around the bottom of them. Clearly something that our civilization would do. The supposed evolved and advanced group. Just piling stones on the bottom of them. It's very advanced work. It's completely destroyed. And these heads at the bottom are not the same color as the heads above. So I'm guessing there were more statues that have been blown into millions of pieces here. And then we have this photo where look at all of that grinded up material right behind them. Did we just throw the previous civilization's work right into a grinder and spit it out right behind the statues? You tell me. Here's a different angle of it, where I know I've seen this before. Anyone else see what I see? Let me know in the comments below. A very clear destruction site in my opinion. And here we can see just how difficult this would be 2086 years ago, where we have seen this narrative before, when they built a cave thousands of feet in the air just to get a little privacy, when a much better location to chisel perfect statues 2086 years ago would have been on the ground. And we all know this. They even have these stone molds where Turkey was supposedly running out of space 2080 years ago. And this site was used for chiseling and stone molding practice, where we are told even the known history of the kingdom is a little shrouded in history. Shrouded to hide something. Where we are told the name of the builder. They know exactly who built these things, if you can believe it. These sculptures were supposedly built by King Antiochus, built as a tomb sanctuary for himself. No. Where the facial features are Greek and the clothing is more Eastern. And for the best part, that these structures are no longer standing in their original positions. So we're at the point that we know that someone, a group, most likely the same group that we have seen all over the world, this group has most likely already been to this location, clearly destroying it. We have shown very clear evidence of this today. Very clearly destroying the previous civilization's work, 7,000 feet into the mountains. Oh, hey, look who has a page on this place. It's our great friends over at the WMF. It's crazy that we have the exact same interests as this group over and over. It's so nice of them to help preserve our favorite spots, where they even have a nice write-up about this location. So let's see what they have to say. The Armenian king ruled the small territory in the 1st century BC, where the king reached a peaceful agreement with Pompey. Of course he did. Yes, very peaceful. There were lots of witnesses. It's a very nice gesture. Lots of handshaking and laughs. And we all know this is 100% a very true story. No, we don't. Where 5 years later, on the dot, the Roman Senate recognized the king as a friend. It's so nice that they were all getting along. It's also so nice that the mainstream treats us like little kids, telling us these incredible stories of friends in the making, where 2,000 years ago, They had master sculptors. But then we get to the 1800s and we're all back to riding around on donkeys and living in sheds. Master sculptors carving a monumental scene of the king seated among the gods, including Greco-Roman deities. And then Abe Lincoln, a president of the United States, is born in a shack in 1809. So where exactly is the evolving and advancing thing that we're all told about over and over? 2,000 years of advancing. We're told by the mainstream narrative that 2,000 years ago, we had master sculptors carving seated kings 7,000 feet high on a mountain. After 1,800 years of advancing, you would think that we would have evolved a little bit and built more than just a couple statues on a mountain. You would think that we would have advanced, maybe a little bit even, into maybe making stone sheds at the very minimum. But no, we were making wooden sheds that didn't even have a bathroom. You had to go outside to the outhouse. Are we all seeing this? It's incredible when you really think about it. We are told there were some conflicts with Julius Caesar, and we've seen this in episode 77, our 1 hour long episode, where the owner just orders a palace, and it's there forever. And now they say that 2,000 years ago, Antiochus orders the assembly of a mountain of crushed rock. He's just ordering it. Any delivery man will do, back 1,800 years ago, where I think this is a massive lie. That 50-meter pile of crushed rock is 100%, in my opinion, the crushed stone of the incredible work of the previous civilization. All in my opinion, of course. But I think it's pretty obvious at this point. We just need 50 meters of crushed stone way up on that mountain, 7,000 feet in the air. What would we do without that crushed stone 2,000 years ago? This story is ridiculous, where the statues, each over 9 meters tall, have all been damaged by earthquakes. But these were no ordinary earthquakes. These were the earthquakes that would chop the heads off of statues from 2,000 years ago. Extremely picky earthquakes that just wanted the heads. All documented. No, of course it's not. Where the earthquakes took their stone heads and sent them rolling down the hillside. Or did someone go in there and remove the heads and grind most of them up and put them right behind the site, 50 meters high, and then roll the other ones down the hill? What do you think? You tell me. Where it was, of course, rediscovered in 1881. So let's get this straight. They didn't even know about this place until 1881. And archaeological activity only began in 1953. Rediscovered in 1881. Exactly like we have talked about here so many times. With our civilization, all of us, just starting only a few hundred years ago. Our timeline that we are all given, beginning around 1700. Finding this place in 1881. And then knowing all about the negative 62s, 2,086 years ago. Knowing all about it. Not 2,085 years ago, but 2,086 years ago on the dot. They know all about this date. Can you see the lie very clearly now? Where since the start of the excavation, most of the heads have been found. Most of them. Not all of them, but most of them. Incredible. Where the INF was charged with the stabilization, conservation, and presentation of this site, where we know that they just found this place in 1881. So for 1,900 years, this place needed a total of 0 restoration projects. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, because we found it, it now needs our help. Where I want to know, do you really think that this place needed our civilization's help? I'm really curious what you think. Please let me know. Solicited WMF to lead the stone conservation and structural consolidation initiatives and to participate in drafting a management plan. Where we have seen this before in other narratives, where this is supposed to be a tomb, we are told. Yet there is no body in there. Indeed, the body of the king. It's thought to have been buried in the chambers, beneath his man-made mountain, though his tomb has yet to be found. So the mainstream pretends to know all about this site. They pretend to know the dates and the names, all associated with the construction, and the reasons why it's there. Yet, the one-time physical evidence of their claim needs to be presented. Their claim is proven to be a lie. There's no individual in there where we know they haven't found anything. It's not a tomb. Never has been, and it never will be. So, are they still looking? Are they still on the hunt for this person? No, of course not. Where I'm sure it's possible, just like we've seen at Easter Island in episode 60, that some of these heads are just the top of the entire structure. Missing heads, where these heads were possibly giving us depictions of what the previous civilization might have looked like, giving too much away to all of us, and just needing those earthquakes to chop all of their heads off and rolling them down the hill and leaving everything else perfectly in place. It makes total sense. Oh no, it doesn't. I am just so thankful that we have so-called experts that went to college, majoring in time travel, to tell all of us about the year 62 BC. Because what would we ever do without them? I decided to check this place out on Google Earth, and the very first place that I pick to drop the guy down, I see this, where you can see the site, and then turn the camera to the side. And we have this thing over here on the side, which is pretty incredible. Now you can see that if these are true depictions of the past, these individuals' heads were so much bigger than ours are today. We are tiny compared to the past, in my opinion. We've shown this a lot. We are even shown that there are tunnels at this site, entrances to an overall structure. And of course, right near the site, you have this bridge, showing that this whole area is extremely significant to the past. A bridge that is still working today, where our bridges fall apart in a few decades. And we all know this. Let's check this place out even more, where we can see this mound of crushed up stone, where my guess is that something is underneath it, with things being buried, as you can see in this depiction right here. But I think that there's something much bigger than this, possibly further down as well. It's very interesting. Remember, all we are told about it is that they ordered it to be done, and that was it. So we don't get much information on this mound of crushed up stone, other than them just ordering it for no reason at all. And do you understand how hard this would be to crush up this much stone and place it here, up on a 7,000 foot high mountain, 2,000 years ago? Just order it, and it's there forever. And the timeline that we are told about, this is ridiculous. So we started over there, and then over here, we have more stone structures. So let's just go around more and spin it back. And you're going to see that the earthquake also attacked this statue's head as well. Goodness, can you believe this earthquake? Honestly, how did we believe this nonsense for so long? Earthquakes that just attack heads of stone structures on a 7,000 foot hill. I can't believe this. Who else sees a massive destruction site? I do wonder, why did they leave any of them? Why didn't they just destroy them all? And look at the location of these things. Just coming way up here to carve statues and lay a big mound of crushed up stone. All for a tomb, and no tomb is even there. This is not the true story in my opinion. It's completely made up. And on Google Earth, you can even see people going up to the top. So I'm not sure if you can still do that today, but I would love for somebody to scan with ground penetrating radar and see if something is under all of these broken pieces of stone. Oh, what is this? In September of 2012, a group of archaeologists using ground penetrating radar and related techniques discovered a pyramidal shaped chamber about 6 meters long and 2.5 meters wide and 3 meters high, and about 15 meters or 50 feet beneath the apex of the Nemrut Temulus. They are letting us know that there are things under this stone. It was not just an order to get a bunch of crushed up stone for no reason. This was deliberate. There is something underneath. And we are correct. They speculate it could be a sarcophagus, along with other objects, possibly statues, where 2 other chambers have been located. Near the larger pyramidal chamber, where the Turkish authorities are not allowing the site to be excavated. So we can only speculate as to what is in the hidden chambers, where the Turkish authorities stumble on this place in the 1800s. They did not construct it, but now they are not allowing the world to see what is under all of that crushed up stone, where the ground penetrating radar gave this depiction underneath that stone, proving that there are things being hidden from us. Can you see very clearly now that we are correct? That this is a worldwide operation to suppress the truth. We have seen this in China, where they have trees and dirt on top of pyramids, hiding things that would explain our true past, hiding things under massive mounds of crushed up stone, where the stone was most likely the old world's work. Are we understanding now how this works? How the narrative is controlled 100% everywhere? How you are not allowed to know what is really going on at these locations, at these sites, and you're just told about a friendship story instead. A bunch of nonsense, where most people believed it until now, where we are just getting started on this channel. Next week, next Saturday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube and Rumble, we will be uncovering another site, this time located all the way in Syria, where we are told that this site was constructed in 1300 BC, predating Turkey's site by nearly 1,300 years. A site that we were told had 3 phases, and they know the exact dates of all of them, where we are shown the exact same thing, where griffins, a possible connection to Tartaria, griffins that have their heads removed from the overall statue yet again. Where if they were teaching about these sites in our history classes, I think I would have been a little bit more excited to get brainwashed every day. Removing the heads, exactly like they did in Turkey, where I don't see this as a coincidence at all, especially when they are located over 200 miles apart, destroying the truth, which is most likely the exact same thing that they did with the head of the Sphinx, located in Giza, Egypt, where we have footprints. Wait, did I say we were waiting until next week to expose this location? There's been a change of plans. We're gonna do this right now. No waiting around. Where we are told that these footprints, each about 3 feet, 3 inches in length, we are told are carved into the stone floors. Where is it possible that these are not carvings and they are actual footprints of the past? Where these feet are feet of an individual measuring 66 feet in height. Giants, all located at Andara, a site that was just found in 1955. Yet again, another location that is destroyed, set atop an artificial hill, where you have to ask, what could still be underneath this site? Where they tell us that this place has a lot of similarities to Solomon's Temple, also known as the first temple in Jerusalem, all located in Syria. Again, I'm at the point where I don't believe that these stories, these locations, were from thousands and thousands of years ago. I believe that this all occurred a lot closer to our timeline than we've been told, possibly only a few hundred years ago. And these dates of 1300 BC and 740 BC are given to us by some random excavator, where the surveying sculptures depict lions and sphinxes are comparable to the cherubim of the first temple. Also left to speculation is to whom the temple is dedicated, where yet again, the temple was significantly damaged by Turkish jets during the military operation in 2018, where 60% of the structure was reduced to rubble. And we can see the site here, where it looks like there's some weird pattern in the ground, all over the place. It's very interesting. And of course, no street view here on Google Earth, with the closest street view located up this road. Why do you think that is? Why do you think we just can't see this place? And we have more from the footprints, and we've all heard of the fingerprints of the gods, Graham Hancock. But have we just located the footprints of the gods? The entire front facade of the temple has been destroyed, and the site's emblematic basalt lion was stolen in 2019 by members of the Hamza division, which is part of the Syrian National Army, where at this point, we can all see very clearly that our true history is being destroyed worldwide and has been for a very long time. Let me know in the comments what you think that they wanted to hide from us. I have an idea, but I want to know all of your opinions at this point, after everything that we've discussed. This is a photo of the site from before the bombings, where it's clearly already been destroyed. Heads have been removed that would have shown depictions of the past that do not fit in at all with the narrative that we've all been told today. And here is a photo of the giant lion that was stolen in 2019, where in my opinion, it looks like something that would hold something of value inside of it. Here are more photos of the site before the bombing. And here is the site today. Talk about going into the middle of nowhere to drop a bomb, purposefully destroying an extremely valuable site. There's no doubt about it. This was deliberate, complete destruction of the past, worldwide. Like we have shown, it is no longer a question if we are correct or not. We're spot on at this point. There is something massive being hidden from us, our true past, our true purpose. And it is not just one location of the world. It is in every single country, every city, every town. We are not told the truth about our historical narrative. There was an extremely advanced group of people right here where we are today, a massive group. They were here, much closer to our timeline than what we have been told. And knowing this unlocks so many questions, or questions from thousands of people, all with different points of view, different skill sets, different knowledge, all working together. These questions, they will always find answers. Did you think it was crazy to think these buildings were all bigger than you can see? Did you think they were just AI generated? Are you ready to have your mind blown? Call it what you want. Being at the right place at the right time? I don't believe in coincidences. We are being shown the truth, in my opinion. Are you ready to see something today that you can't find in a textbook? We will be getting to the Illinois State Capitol building today, so get ready. So today, I'm taking a trip to a lot of places. We're gonna be checking out some crazy stuff. Buildings that have wild stories, architecture that does not fit the mainstream timeline, and as always, a lot more. Let's begin with the Streeter Public Library, where we are told the construction began in 1902, and it just popped up January 31st, 1903, which again, we have definitely proven that in episode 41, using artificial intelligence, that this is logistically impossible, and now they are currently restoring it. At this point, restoration, in my eyes, means destruction and removal, especially when the landing in front of the murals are blocked off to the public, and the front entrance is closed to the general public. Let's set the tone for this episode. The murals have never been cleaned since they were supposedly installed in 1905. And here we go. And severe smoke damage occurred to the murals in 1945 when the library had a fire in the boiler room. All right, so we get the nod. We have a hidden restoration process by our incredibly advanced society. Joking, of course. And can we just look at this AI-generated name for a second? This is right in your face kind of stuff. What is the guy's name that supposedly painted the murals? I'm not even gonna say it, because if I do, well, you know what it would say. Once you have eyes to see, this kind of stuff just honestly is so in your face and childish. And we all know about how these incredible architects, painters, supervisors, and the rest are killed off immediately after the job is done, or right in the middle of it. So let's take a look at this together. The murals were done in 1905. What year do you think this guy dies in? Well, let's take a closer look. The project is done in 1905, And he's dead in 1905 in New York City? Interesting. By suicide. Now, of course, they care so much about our society that they will close the library down and paint over things that the public should not be seeing. Okay, so we have a very interesting story here, and I want to continue to our next building because we have a lot of cool stuff to see that gets even more in depth. Less than a mile away, we have the Logan County Courthouse. And this courthouse is also getting destroyed. Renovated. Other iconic features of the Logan County Courthouse are the four-faced clocks and stained glass interior domes. So they are repainting the clocks. And as for the stained glass interior dome, it was removed a few years ago, of course. And once all the changes and destruction is done, oh, did I say destruction? Repairs, but yeah, destruction. It will be reinstalled, but we don't know when that will be, of course. Wow, okay. Now I'm going to prove another point right here. So there's always issues that come up in the world, right? There are time periods such as the Civil War, the Great Depressions, freezing winters. Now, in current day construction, these are all real issues that we actually have to talk about and actually happen. But the 1800s, apparently, this was no problem. And the buildings always got done in like 9 months. Never an issue. So let's prove this point right here. In March 2020, Logan County got the money to repair the courthouse. However, 2020 brought its own challenges. Walters said repairs halted during this time period that we all just went through. Then he and his team were met with labor issues and increased material costs. This is honestly normal. This is what happens when constructing things. Things sometimes come up. Things happen that slow the process of construction down. How is it, though, that 200 years ago, this kind of stuff never happened? There was no construction issues. They never had a labor issue. They never had a shortage of construction workers. They never had weather issues or anything that would slow the process of construction down. Everything just worked out back then. Every time. Everywhere in the world. It amazes me that buildings in the 1800s, where they did not even have a road completed, were simply constructed in a year. Or less, with no issues. Yet our current civilization can't even restore it in a shorter amount of time than it took to construct the entire building 120 years ago. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't. This is a different building in Ohio, but I just want to show you what I'm talking about. The Logan County Courthouse in Ohio, because the AI can't come up with a new name for these buildings, it's so repetitive, but that's not the point here. This one was built in 1870, yet took our civilization 6 years to renovate it. In 1870, it was easy and they could just construct the entire thing so fast. No, it isn't possible for every single town in the 1800s to fully understand the construction process. Every single architect to be perfect, and no understanding of where these people were trained. What school did they go to? They were all incredible? At some point, you gotta question this. At some point, it doesn't make sense. And I think we're at that point. So they build these incredible buildings, they just throw them together in a year, and then they go home and live in a shed, suffering in the winters with bonnets. The narrative is insane. Oh, and remember, we showed that the University Hall, right down the street, was founded. Do we all want to take a guess what else was founded in 1839? 184 years ago? You got it. The Logan County Courthouse was also founded. Incredible. So we have a lot of founded things in this town. They give us this nice picture, even though it's fake and just a drawing. Now for the Illinois State Capitol building. At first, when we first got there, I was really upset that we had another old world building under construction. If you go back and watch my Boots on the Ground playlist, it's actually unbelievable how many times these buildings are under some sort of construction. It's reminding me a lot of the fire narratives, where if it's an old world building, they have to put some sort of construction machine next to the building. Repetition is a clue, and it means that you need to look closer into it. So yeah, I was upset at first about the construction, because we wouldn't be able to go inside or get up close to the building. Until I took my camera across the road, and I couldn't believe my eyes. Call it what you want, but timing is everything. The old world exposed underground, showing us that these buildings are massive, so much bigger than we can see underground. And this hole right here in the side of the building looks like yet another tunnel entrance. Is this a tunnel that we just got on camera? If you're unsure, again, I'm gonna recommend it. After this episode, I suggest watching episode 42, tunnels below our feet. Did they just destroy a tunnel with this construction process? To me, that is exactly what it looks like. And I'd love to hear what your opinion is about the entrance to the lower part of the Capitol building in the comments below. I don't think that was something we were ever meant to see. If we were here any other time, we would have missed this. Now that we have this sort of thing on film, it breaks down the walls. And it's no longer a speculation. I think we just found a tunnel system that runs underneath Springfield, Illinois. And then we have this castle that is now owned by the state and repurposed into the Illinois State Military Museum. I've contacted a member of the staff of the building because they honestly have zero information about it anywhere. And they have not emailed me back, of course. The crazy thing about this place is that it's located right next to the Illinois State Capitol building and the Supreme Court clerk. The same one that the Illinois State Archive building held zero archives about. Incredible buildings, all right next to each other, which is normally the case. Once you find one of these buildings from the past civilization, there is normally so many more that are so out of place, all right next to each other. This changes everything about where we are. There's so many lies right in front of our face. How did we all just walk past these buildings for so many years and not think anything of it? That truth is so much more powerful than lies. And once you know the truth, you don't go back to walking past the old world buildings and thinking nothing of it. Now, exactly a half a mile away, on the dot, from the Illinois State Capitol building, we have the Union Station in Springfield. Now, this part gets very interesting, as they're going to try to explain how the main source of transportation got here. And it's about to get really eye-opening, so get ready. On December 21st, 1907, a fire started. It started at the Johnston Hatcher building. It destroyed the eastern half of the 600 block on East Adams Street. So in my opinion, a ton of old world buildings gone to this planned demolition. Now for the best part of this paragraph. This will all tie in with the train station, but here we go. The fire stopped only when the blaze hit the Bessemer building, which was built to be fireproof. No, it wasn't. It was a failed attempt because that exact same building, 40 years later, was burned down by a fire. It's unbelievable. And to take it a step further, let's go even deeper. They are going to try and explain this away with some stupid lighting his pipe story, but that didn't work because he starts talking and said he didn't have a pipe or matches. So the officials had to jump in. And who are these trustworthy people? And because they tell the world that they are officials, whatever they say will be what happened, and everybody will believe it. They said a short circuit in the wiring beneath the window ignited the cotton after the pipe story didn't work out. So ridiculous. They had to make something up because he ran his mouth and called them out on their lie. They destroyed these buildings, in my opinion. And I say my opinion, but there's an overwhelming amount of evidence to support this. And of course, that wouldn't be the only evidence that I use. Let's go even deeper. To prove this point, firefighters were back at 7th and Adams on October 11th, 1913, so 6 years later, when another spectacular fire demolished the new Johnston Hatcher building. Once again, flames then swept west along the same half block of Adams Street. Although, what do you know? The fire comes to a complete halt when it reaches the amazing Bessemer building that we already know does burn down. So obviously this was a planned demolition, a controlled one to be exact. This does not happen. There were obviously things in this town from the old world, a past civilization that they did not want us to see. And of course, they don't even try this time to explain how this fire started. But this 1913 fire is where we will tie in the Union Station, because this is where the fire destroyed it. And it's weird that they say there was an original. As you can see here, when we all know the so-called second Union Station was the original, and they demolished it. And here it says, it was subsequently rebuilt with a more modern design. A more modern design? Of course it was. Unbelievable. Let's please just take a look at this picture for a minute. We have dirt roads. I need everyone here to understand that in order to ride a horse and pull the wagon with hundreds of pounds of brick in the wagon, they would need a paved road. The wheels that they had would sink right into this dirt. The wheels were pathetic, especially if it was raining that week. And you know, sometimes it does rain. I know in the 1800s they want to pretend that there's never any rain or ever any snow, but there was. And this is just another example that will prove how incredible the tunnel systems from episode 42 are. They had incredible tunnels that were in every town, connecting all of these buildings together, which we've shown, with limestone walls. Yet they didn't have a road? They did have a road, in my opinion, and it's underneath all of this dirt. It's so backwards, and this is why we are questioning things. So this was their wheel. Good luck. Not gonna happen. In my opinion, this train station was here. Trains were here in the past civilization, and it was not thousands of years ago. It was very recent, and our history is a complete lie. We are told that the train was brand new within the last few hundred years, when in reality, it has been here time and time again. And this was the past civilization's train station. And this was the past civilization's town. And then it's no wonder it's Illinois' state capital now. It's incredible. And it was destroyed in 1907 and 1903. And wait, what is this? No, they had another fire in 1921? Are you kidding me? The fire destroyed the old world building. I mean, the 1920s building. Along with the cars, and of course, the Hatchers replaced the burned building with a smaller service facility and a car wash. I was also going to check out the Western Clock Manufacturing Company building, located in Peru, Illinois. Interesting name for a town. But that one was destroyed by a fire as well. On New Year's Day, 2012. Perfect timing for a clock company to burn down. New Year's Day, right on the dot. Destroying the old world with more fires. We all understand that brick and stone does not burn from a random house fire. These, in my opinion, are demolitions. So we have cowboys and Indians from 1865 to 1895. Cowboys and Indians. Yet we have massive construction projects going on all around the world, all over America. And at the same exact time, we have the Civil War, supposedly going on in 1861. Yet massive cathedrals were easily constructed in every city, everywhere, and no problem, it was easy. The mainstream narrative does not add up. We have the Montgomery County Courthouse in Illinois that was supposedly thrown together in less than 24 months, nearly 200 years ago. And then you have the Carnahan Courthouse, located in St. Louis, Missouri, the exact site of the 1904 World's Fair. There were two phases in the construction of this incredible building. The first phase began in 1929, and the building was done in 1930. Simple. Then the second phase of construction, which included the eastern half of the courthouse, began in 1935 and was done in 1937. Now, like we have mentioned, we have proven through AI ChatGPT that this narrative is impossible. Nobody was building these courthouse structures in 1 year, anywhere in the 1800s. And then you can call up the State Archives building yourself, which we did, and they will have zero information on it. There is zero mention of any construction company that was used in this project, because there was no construction company. It was from a past civilization, and they thought we would never ask, but we are. And it's completely destroying the mainstream narrative. The same lying narrative that has taken decades upon decades to work on, attempting to trick children year after year into thinking that this is the truth. But as soon as one of us hear the real truth, we are now interested, and we begin questioning the lies that have been told to us. And once you begin to question these lies about the mainstream narrative on these buildings, the lies never hold up, obviously. They make zero sense, and we are never given all the details. The facts that would be necessary for us to trust the mainstream narrative. We would need so many more details, such as who was the construction company? Where did the materials come from? How many horses were used? How much water did the horses need? And how was that set up for them to be properly hydrated in the summer months? Were there places for the workers to stay so they could get up early and actually work on the construction and get the job done? How many men were used? Was there ever an issue with the construction process? And on and on and on. But this is about to get insane, and I have been waiting a while to show you all this. So you're definitely going to want to see this. Here we go. Now, the actual website says that it was built in 1828, saying it opened its first courthouse, not 1928 like we were previously told. In a book called Contemporary American Sculpture that was published in 1929, a year before the building was completed, it already listed that the building was done and of Rebeck's work. So was the narrator getting ahead of itself, thinking that nobody would catch that flaw? I believe so. And they have stories about freedom going on in the building in 1850. So the story is all over the place when you go from site to site. And this is when we know we're onto them. And then we dive deeper. And this is when we look around and find things that are insane and completely blow the narrative open. And that's exactly what we did. First of all, this looks like it's on the ground level, something we have seen so many times all around the world. Are there a lot more structures that have columns like this that are so much deeper and hidden by dirt underground? That's exactly what's going on, in my opinion. Now, as we zoom in on the top of this 386-foot high building, that is most likely even bigger than that, we will see two Sphinx-like ornaments. They are 20 feet long, 11 and a half feet high, which has a room underneath them. Hold on. What am I reading here? The griffins, with the aluminum of the roof, form a huge lightning conductor, which is connected with the grouch by concealed wires. Griffins, free energy, technology from the past civilization right in front of our faces. The Sphinxes were given human faces instead of the lion's face, lion meaning griffin, in order to symbolize mercy, tempering justice. Sure. Yeah. And I really want you all to think about this one. Here we go. We have the pyramid on top of the building, just like in Giza. And in Giza, something is missing from the top of the pyramid. Did they remove the griffins from the top of the Giza pyramid? And the faces on the griffins in St. Louis were changed from a lion to a man, exactly like the ones in Egypt. And these are griffin paws, in my opinion, were the Sphinxes in Egypt, also generating power, just like these ones. And when you look at the $1 bill in the USA, it shows the all-seeing eye being removed from the top of the pyramids. Is this just symbolism for them removing the griffins and removing the previous civilization from our history? And were the ones in Egypt, just like the ones in St. Louis, Missouri, here on top of the courthouse building, actually griffins? I'm gonna come right out and say it. I think the Sphinx in Egypt was actually a griffin, and it's been defaced. And yes, I believe griffins were most likely removed from the top of the Giza pyramids. Identical to what we see in St. Louis. Was ancient Egypt not that ancient? We have even more to share about this incredible city, as well as this general location. I want to show you all something that is hidden under a layer of grass. And if we just removed the grass, we all know at this point what we would find. But how incredible is it? Let's find out today. And I want to show you all something massive, something that is sitting right in front of our faces and has been our entire lives, and in my opinion, for multiple civilizations, and won't be going anywhere anytime soon. And that is the 227-foot tall St. Louis Basilica, which has a seating capacity of 2,500 people. So let's take the camera and go inside this basilica and dive deep into this mainstream narrative today and expose the lies that have been somehow hidden for so many years. Now, if we want a true representation of the year 1907, supposedly the exact same year that this St. Louis Basilica construction began, then we need to see what was supposedly going on during this year. We are told that this was the panic of 1907, the first worldwide financial crisis of the 20th century, and also the perfect time to begin the 3 million, or converted into 2023, the $98.23 million project. It's actually the worst possible time to begin a project like this. This narrative is already sounding off, and when you find major flaws like this, we know that we have a green light to dig deeper. So let's begin with exposing the supposed architects, Barrett, Haynes, and Barrett. Reoccurring names, yet again, which we've seen so many times in so many episodes, which is just another giveaway that this name is AI generated. But let's continue. Let's see what this group was up to from 1907 to 1914. The exact same years that we were told that this basilica was built in. You would think that this incredible basilica, that none of us have ever seen anything close to this be constructed today, or at any point in our lifetimes, you would think that these architects would be fully focused on this specific building and making sure that it went perfect. They wouldn't be off building another building at the exact same time, would they? Well, they started 2 other projects at the exact same time as the St. Louis Basilica. because they were just that incredible. And not only that, during the exact same time period that they were supposedly building this massive structure that we've never seen built in our lifetimes, they were able to direct their attention to 4 other states and 13 other buildings, all during the financial crisis. Starting to sound off a little? Should we keep going? Let's do it. This was constructed, right? It wasn't? It wasn't founded in 1914. So we have another building that is found, and it's right in front of our faces. You do not find your house. You construct your house, and you build your house. If you need to go back and watch episode 35 for a reminder on the legal definition of the word founded, I suggest doing that after this episode. Here on the Basilica's website, we begin to find reoccurring words, and it gets really strange. The probability of this type of verbiage reoccurring in all of these narratives is mathematically impossible. Here we go. This is going to be another proof that the narrative is written and generated by the AI in the exact same sentence. We find a completely made-up story to attempt to trick us into thinking that it's a real event and giving it legs to stand on. Here we go. The altar was the gift of Mr. and Mrs. William Cullen McBride, whose daughter, Kathleen, would become the new cathedral's first bride. So in your face. The McBrides get the first bride. Of course they do. Now, remember, there's never any details on the actual construction process, because the construction never actually took place in this timeline. They do not explain how many men were used in the construction. This wasn't thousands of years ago. There should also be photographs of the building's construction. The camera was invented in 1816, so there should be something at this point, but there's nothing. Now, I'm sorry, but when you are spending the equivalent to nearly $100 million on a building, and it only takes 3 to 5 minutes to take a photograph in 1910, someone would have done it, somewhere in the world. The excuse that it would take too long and is an inconvenience is absolute nonsense and is a crutch to hold on to believing the mainstream lie. This was not thousands of years ago. This was relatively recent, and we do not have a single photograph of the construction process. It's a massive flaw in the mainstream narrative. Thomas P. Barnett was the architect for the St. Louis Basilica. His father, George I. Barnett, not a real photo, even though they had cameras in the 1800s, especially for supposedly famous people. Now I'll tie this back in really quick here, but I want to show you all the repetition again and how obvious the lie is when you can see from this side of the board. So George finished his amazing training in England at the age of 16 and then trained with Thomas Hine. So we have another Thomas. Do we remember that his son is also Thomas? So 2 out of the 3 names are Thomas. And not only do we have this weird fact about George, but we also have this, to prove my point, that these are all fictional characters, especially anyone doing anything significant before 1850. They don't even know how old he was when he died, because they don't give us his actual birth date. Remember, again, this is not 1,000 years ago. They know all about him when he was 16, but no clue when he was born. And these are the people that we are supposed to trust with our history. Now, are you ready to expose this thing and show how this is mathematically impossible? Are you ready to see how this is all scripted and, in my opinion, not real people? Here we go. There are 4 people involved in this story, and we are very deep right now into this. So just bear with me. 4 people. We have the father, George I. Barnett. We have his 2 sons, Thomas Barnett and George D. Barnett. And then we also have one more guy involved in this supposed architect firm, John I. Haynes, that are all connected in the weirdest way possible and proves that this is mathematically impossible and a total lie. So here we go. We have all 4 of these people right here, both Georges, Tom, and brother-in-law John. The father, George, was born in 1815 and died in 1898. The odds of him being born on December 29th, 30th, or 31st are 0.008%. So he died at the age of 82, since he most likely did not have his birthday yet in 1898. Now let's take a look at John Haynes, the son-in-law to George. He was born in 1860 and died in 1942. What are the odds that he also dies at the age of 82, just like George? And then we can take a look at both of George's sons, Let's start with George, the kid. He was born in 1863 and died in 1922. So he died at the age of 59. What are the odds that the other brother, Thomas, also dies at the age of 59? What are the odds that these four characters are all connected? Thomas P. Barnett, born February 11th, 1970, died September 23rd, 1929, at the age of 59. Can you see with open eyes now? Do you see how this is all here for us to find? All we have to do is look. These are characters. This building is not from our civilization. It is from a previous civilization, and we are being lied to about how it got here. There are clues within each one of these narratives. It is up to us to find them and expose them. And what are the odds that the exact same year that the St. Louis Basilica is found, the Barnett, Hayes, and Barnett Architects Company dissolves? What are the odds? You all know what I think about that. I want to point one more thing out about this narrative that I found, and you tell me what you think about this. On Wikitree, I found John Haynes, and we were told that he married into this Barnett family, with George being his father-in-law. We are told this multiple times, but when you go on Wikitree and we find this character, it starts to get even more strange, because it says that he was the husband to Harriet Haynes, which is obviously his last name, but let's click on her name. And what do you know? She is not related to George Barrett. Her family name originally being Hellery. Her dad was Henry Hellery, having zero relation to George Barrett. And this is the same John Haynes guy, being involved in the Barrett and Taylor firm as a draftsman. This is all proving that the narrative is a total fabrication. It is all over the place and shouldn't be trusted at all. When I am told one lie, I begin to question it. But when I am told an overwhelming amount of nonsense by the mainstream narrator, like we have been today, the narrator has lost my trust forever. This is not the first time. We have hours and hours of documented evidence showing that the mainstream narrative is not to be trusted at all. Here we have the Cahokia Mounds, which is only 10 miles away from St. Louis, but in my opinion, all connected to the past civilization. It's very clear that this specific location on the grid is of importance. In my opinion, these are all areas on the map that the Earth gives off a natural energy that is extremely powerful, that the past civilization was able to take advantage of. Do the so-called controllers of our current civilization know this and take advantage of this today? And it's weird, because you have pyramids all over the place. They're everywhere. Maybe not as big as the monks' pyramid, but there were a lot of them that have been destroyed in the last 100 years. This one is actually still here, which is exactly how our construction works today. It just lasts forever. Oh, it doesn't? No, it doesn't. And it's so weird just looking at these pictures. They look so out of place. And they look out of place because they are. And we know this here. But you look at the ground and it looks so fresh, like brand new topsoil that you buy from Home Depot. Like the grounds crew just got done raking it and getting it ready to be shown off to the public. It's honestly so weird. And what are these people doing? They don't even look real. Where are they walking to? They all look dressed up and just taking a stroll. My opinion is that those are Photoshop people. We have seen this kind of thing so many times, where they don't show any faces, and the people don't fit in with the picture. Exactly how the building, or in this case pyramid, doesn't fit in our timeline. This one was from Italy and was allegedly built in 12 BC. Oh, in only 6 years. Because of course they know the exact start and finish dates of things from 2,000 years ago. But they don't know the exact same information from only 100 years ago. And we have shown this time and time again. Over 2,000 years ago? Yet Abe Lincoln was born in a shack? So yeah, I'm not buying that nonsense. Honestly, this is the kind of stuff that gives it all away. And why we are questioning the mainstream nonsense. They can build a pyramid 2,000 years ago, and then our civilization is brainwashed and is supposed to believe that we have evolved so much after 1,800 years that we are now being born in sheds. I can't speak for everyone, but I am not going to sit here and just accept that. As I walked around this site, it is 2,200 acres. So it's obviously massive. And the story that they're going to try and tell us is nonsense. There is the Monk's Mound, which is the main one. And I say mound, but I really mean pyramid. And I'm going to call it the Monk's Pyramid from now on. This is no random mound of dirt, and this is very clear. Yet they brushed it off as a mound in its title. None of these are mounds. They're all pyramids, and they're all connected. Monk's Pyramid is 100 feet high, 955 feet long, and 775 feet wide, making it the same size at its base as the Great Pyramid of Giza, right here next to St. Louis. Let's continue on to this paragraph. The perimeter of its base is larger than the Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacan. All right, so we have something massive and extremely important here, covered by a layer of dirt and grass. If the layer of grass was removed and exposed what is really under it, the entire USA narrative would be completely shredded and thrown in the garbage, as it should be. People would be so confused why there's a massive pyramid and other pyramids connected to each other. It's a 2,200 acre site. Construction of the Monk's Pyramid began about 1,123 years ago, so they say, on a site that has already been occupied by buildings. Already had buildings? I'm sorry, what? In the year 900, they already had buildings? So at the same time, over in Italy, we have the St. Mark's Basilica being built in a time period before they even knew how to make paper, supposedly. So Italy is building this, and then we have massive pyramids and buildings being built in the USA by the Mississippian culture, which is completely ridiculous, because if they can build massive pyramids, then they can build a better hut than this to live in. The narrative is contradicting itself, because 850 years later, we get cowboys and Indians, and everyone is freezing in the winters in their shed. And so we're on the same page. The St. Mark's Basilica and these pyramids were built in the year 850 to 900, supposedly. And then we have all kinds of basilicas and massive structures being constructed for centuries in this ridiculous timeline that we're given. And then once 1900 hits, we are no longer able to construct the St. Mark's Basilica, or a Cologne Cathedral, or a Milan Cathedral. It is very clear that there was a reset, and our timeline is a complete fabrication, in my opinion. Now, if you're on the fence, this should help bring you over. If this was a narrative that you would stand by, blindly accepting, no matter what, I think this is the time to reconsider. Since you would be backing up a mainstream narrative theory that is, by admission, a theory, and not at all proven, botanical or a substance from a plant that they found that remains from the Monk Pyramid, suggests it was built much more quickly than previously thought, suggests, perhaps, maybe, on the order of several consecutive decades, but we don't know. It might be, providing an alternative view of its construction history. And there we have it. The mainstream narrative cannot explain these structures because they don't fit into the mainstream timeline. A much more logical explanation is that the previous civilization was here, an extremely advanced civilization. Should we blow this narrative away? Should we expose it and show that they are not being truthful with us? Should we show that it's not from 1,000 years ago? Let's do it. Thomas I. Ramey, who bought the site in 1864, of course. As soon as the 1800s hit, like we talked about, this is when they had to figure out the narrative, and this site was not fitting in. They tell us that an era of more responsible ownership began. What a joke. Many artifacts were found at or near the surface. Really? Finding the old world's things and removing them so that we don't see. Very interesting. So there were things here in the 1800s that would have been important for our research. Ramey had a tunnel made, or did he locate one? After everything we have seen, even in the last 5 episodes, do you think this guy made a tunnel, or do you think he found one? And of course, they brush it off and say that the tunnel revealed nothing of historic interest. I'm sorry, but the first time I read that, I laughed out loud. Could this be any more in your face and right on point with what we are talking about? Tunnels, removing things from the site, all once our new civilization's timeline hits. Not in the 1400s or 1600s, no. Right when the mid-1800s hit, this all takes place. Incredible. And if you thought I was crazy, thinking that removing the dirt would expose the past civilization's work. Let me show you what I'm talking about, and exactly why they keep this thing covered up with grass and dirt. In 1970, they adopted an incredible strategy, one that only a genius would ever think to do: scraping away the topsoil. Unbelievable. They dug down 2 feet, and this quickly revealed various features, including what appeared to be the outline of the temple. 2 feet under the dirt, we have a temple. We have something unbelievable. This is not a mound. This is a pyramid. And I'm sure the architecture is insane and unexplainable in this make-believe mainstream narrative timeline, which is why it's covered up with dirt and grass, as well as the rest of the 2,200 acres of pyramids. This technique was, of course, opposed by professional archaeologists. So they stopped because they found too much and would shatter their lie. Wow. Now here in the preservation section, they're going to try and explain how it stays in perfect condition for hundreds and hundreds of years. But right when the 1950s hit, all of these random natural catastrophes happen. And of course, accidentally damage the clay layers within. Can you believe it? I don't. And to put a nail in this narrative, once and for all, they say this was a clay structure, but workers discovered a mass of stone deep within the mound. This is a stone structure, not a clay structure. And we are being lied to about this pyramid at every turn, covered by dirt. And the previous civilization's work is hidden in plain sight. I also went to the St. Louis Art Museum, which had the exact same interior layout as the Field Museum in Chicago, which is very strange. We all know these buildings were not built originally to be museums, but honestly, just standing in them makes you feel as if you're in a building created for giants. The doorways are massive. The ceilings are so high, it doesn't make sense for a civilization that is short and struggling through the tough times, and without proper architecture education, and going home to their huts and riding around on donkeys to be constructing massive Greco-Roman buildings, all to just show off some bones that were made in China. That was not the true reason, and we all know this. The view from the top of these pyramids were incredible. Being able to see the city of St. Louis from the top was very cool. And I want to leave you all with this thought. While walking up to the pyramids and just using our knowledge, and with everything else that we know about this topic, it really made me wonder how much bigger underground this pyramid really is. All right, and I don't want to be done yet. We have a short bonus for today. And as a thank you for your support, I want to have some fun and speculate on something with you all. I want to speak about the city of Turkmenistan and just introduce it for everyone that hasn't come across it yet, and also go deeper into the connection between the house of worship and this city. So there was a city named Turkmenistan, and they were supposedly taken over by Russia in the 1800s. The exact timeline that we are talking about here, where the narrative officially begins for our current civilization, in my opinion. Now, if you are new, Russia and Tartaria were the same land on the map. Russia takes over Tartaria, and Russia's flag is showing the man on the horse stabbing Tartaria's flag symbol, the griffin. So Russia is taking over these territories, including Turkmenistan, a place that is so strange. It basically looks straight out of the old world and untouched. The reason I bring this up is because we have this structure in Chicago, and we are seeing that it is all connected and 100% on a worldwide operation. The first house of worship for this group in what is now Turkmenistan. And this is how they're going to introduce all of these exact same looking structures all over the world. And what do you know? The only one that's gone is the one that was in Turkmenistan. What are the odds? So this is where we can go ahead and find even more structures from the past civilization, because they are attempting to bunch them all together to explain them all away. So we are given 8 locations of these structures that are currently standing, and honestly, these remind me exactly like Frederick's Church in Denmark. They look like we're just seeing the top of them, and they are actually so much bigger underground. We are given the one in Wilmette, Illinois, Kampala, Uganda, Sydney, Australia, Langenhain, Germany, Panama City, Panama, and is anyone else seeing what I'm seeing? That they are all in the middle of nowhere? It's very odd. Just like Turkmenistan, where it is literally in the middle of nothing. And in every single picture of this city, there are basically no people. And you have to ask logical questions at this point. Why build massive buildings and structures for nobody? You wouldn't. In my opinion, these buildings were simply found. And there is a lot more to see here in this city. And I'll dedicate a whole episode to this. But to prove the point, Tiapapara, Samoa has one as well. In the middle of nowhere. It's just weird. New Delhi, India, same thing. And of course, we have this one in Santiago, Chile. It's weird. They are nowhere near anything. I know some of these were built recently, but the fact of the matter is that they all have consistencies and give us clues. And when you find smoke, there's normally fire. Patterns are extremely important when looking for lies. And that is what we are seeing here. They all have connections to Turkmenistan. And they are all in the middle of nowhere. It's odd to say the least. Are these places sitting on ley lines connected to the Earth's natural power source? Are there tunnels in these locations? We can see that the public blueprints show that this building is bigger than we can see and goes underground. And there is a door at the bottom here. Leading to what? These are all over the world, yet hold the same consistencies. Something to think about for sure. Especially when you get the construction story that are basically campfire stories, where some people believe that the building was used to keep a whale alive. Others say the building was a refueling station for captured German submarines. Others say it was for kickboxing and his friend thinks it's for discos. The group that found these buildings holds the keys. And through our research, our questions, and open eyes, we continue to get closer and closer to the truth. Where we went into Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and got boots on the ground footage, and learned a lot about this town. And it carried on into episode 42, where we learned all about their tunnel system, and we exposed a ton about this location. And I think this triggered something. On October 9th, 2023, Fox 11 News reported that Oshkosh, Wisconsin had a road construction project going on, where they, for some weird random reason, needed to delay the project. This is when archaeologists were just randomly in the area and working on the site. I'm just gonna ask the AI ChatGPT if archaeologists are normally present during road construction. No, archaeologists are not always present during road construction projects. So we definitely have something weird going on here. And they found an extensive village. Are you ready to see what they found? Did this community that we've built trigger a destruction project in Oshkosh? In my opinion, this is exactly what happened. So they say that the Cultural Resource Management Project has been working with the city since the start of the road resurfacing project. Road resurfacing? They're not building a new road. This is not making any logical sense. A road resurfacing project happens all the time, and you definitely don't need government programs or agencies there, or archaeologists for these small road resurfacing projects. The cultural resource management programs are typically established and enforced by government agencies to protect archaeological, historical, and cultural sites and resources. So are you ready to fully understand what is going on here? Are you ready to see why I think we triggered this? Here we go. Because of the history of the area, the archaeologists already knew that there were archaeological deposits on both sides of the existing road. The old world was there for decades, and they knew this. And now that we have just gone there, they need to cover it up or destroy it. And there was a high likelihood of remnants under the existing road. What kind of remnants would they be talking about? And that's exactly what researchers have found. Unbelievable stuff. We all know that there was a much more advanced civilization that lived here before our current timeline. A civilization that was able to construct the Cologne Cathedral, or the St. Mark's Basilica, and all of these towns, including Oshkosh, that have been hidden from us and explained away by saying that they were just ancients. They were from thousands of years ago. So basically implying to us that we were not supposed to question it, when in reality, this advanced group of people were not here thousands of years ago, and instead, relatively recent. It's a village site, so a place where people lived in the past. Should we continue to see what they found? Remember, they have admitted to already knowing that all of this was here, and they are just now doing something with it. But because they're doing something with it, they have to explain it away with all of this nonsense. I believe, in my opinion, that they are removing anything that could give away the fact that this was not from 1,000 years ago. They are removing all of the things that this community would take and run with. This is shocking stuff. They admit to finding houses. Finding houses? Are you kidding me? Under the dirt? Mud flood, anyone? So what's going on here? There's a considerable amount of cultural items that they also found, as well as cultural materials associated with the places that people would have lived in the past civilization. Can we see this stuff right now on a live stream? No. Do any of us trust these people to share everything that they have found with us? Remember, they knew all of this was here, which is the craziest part. So these people are taking a guess that this civilization was here from the time period of 900 to 1600, which is the exact same time period that we are discussing here. Literally right before the 1800s, a major event took place and wiped the previous civilization out. I'm stunned right now, to be honest with you. It will, of course, all be preserved eventually, once the road resurfacing project resumes. Who here believes that? So this project is going to continue into the spring. So if anyone finds any more information on it, put that in the comments below, or send me something on X. We need to stay on this as a community. This is the past civilization being exposed. And one more thing about this article for now. If they knew this was here, what else are they aware of that we aren't being told about all around the world? Now, we are going to begin with the Milwaukee City Hall. And if you all enjoy it, I will go there and investigate and try to get inside. So just let me know if that's something you'd like to see. I have a few other places that we're going to investigate today, where the mainstream narrative is lying straight to our faces, to knocking that one down and upgrading to this, and seeing evolution hitting us square in the face. I'm glad that once we actually got power tools, the buildings really took off, and the architecture just blew us all away, with perfect 90-degree angles. So let's all have some fun today, and open our eyes even further to the nonsense that we have been told, and reconnect with our hidden past that has been hidden for far too long. As promised, here we are in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and we are going to start this episode off with the investigation into the mainstream lie surrounding this Milwaukee City Hall building that was supposedly designed by architect Henry C. Okay. So we have another childish fictional character that the narrator likes to be all weird about, as we have seen so many times before, constantly making names that are inside jokes for middle school kids. Now, of course, due to Milwaukee's historic German immigrant population, many of the surrounding buildings mirror this incredible design. Wow, okay, interesting. So as long as we just have a lot of German people, buildings in the unbelievable Flemish Renaissance revival style will just magically appear. Did you guys know this? I had no idea this was a thing, but thanks to the mainstream narrative, now we know. We should all give this a try sometime. What a joke. Especially because this was built by a contest winner in the 1800s. Anyone that rode around on a horse or a donkey qualified for the contest in the 1800s. Every single one of them. They all had this kind of architecture embedded into their DNA. There were so many of them that they needed to hold contests all over the world to shed off all of the competition. It's strange though, because once the 1900s hit, not a single person ever had what it took to get one of these buildings completed, which is completely backwards from what we are told. Evolution, I thought. Very strange. Well, let's continue and see if they clear this up for us a little bit. What is this? You gotta be kidding me. Not only are there so many people that can draw up a winning design, there are also 2 Henrys that are so incredible that they can win this competition. This is another example of the AI generating names. Fake characters all over the place. They create these names that are duplicates, reoccurring, and nobody ever questioned it. Until now. We have shown this many times. I think my favorite example is in episode 43, when they show all of the Fredericks. And I'm gonna get back to this Henry Cobb guy after we're done with this building, because he was a busy character. For this insane narrative, construction began in June of 1892, after the pretend political controversy kicked Henry #1 out for the better option of Henry #2. So the project for the tallest building in the United States of America, reaching a height of nearly 400 feet, begins in June of 1892 and is all wrapped up by Henry #2 in just 3 years, when it is now occupied in 1895. Now let's dive into this and show everyone how insane this fake narrative really is. We are told that Cream City brick was used for the exterior of the building. They used limestone, of course, for the decorative elements and ornaments, particularly around the entrance and windows. And then we need to have granite. What would a building in the 1800s be without a massive amount of granite? So that's all great. But how much of these materials would they actually need in order to build the tallest building in the entire USA? We are told that they would need tens of thousands of Cream City bricks and could have been in the range of several millions of bricks. Okay, right. And several hundred to several thousand cubic feet of limestone, and in the range of hundreds of cubic feet to over 1,000 cubic feet of granite. In order for the narrative to be logistically possible, we need all of these answers. So let's use their tool against them again, an AI ChatGPT. Let's see how long it would take the materials to get to the site in 1895, and see if this is logistically possible for Henry number 2 to get this thing constructed in 3 years. The Cream City brick is strange in itself, as they have ended all production of it since 1920, so we are told. Now, in my opinion, this brick was from the past civilization, and this is why the mainstream narrative has to explain it somehow, and say that we have been unable to recreate it for over 100 years, when in reality, our civilization has never been able to create the Cream City brick. Now, it's all over Milwaukee, so they say that it was sourced in Milwaukee. For the sake of argument, let's just go with it for a minute. Saying that it would take a few weeks to a couple months to produce several millions, which we were told earlier, of cream brick, and transport it to the site. A couple weeks to produce this cream brick in the 1800s. But we can't do it anymore? Do you find that odd? I do. So then we have the limestone, which would take several months to a year or more to extract the several thousands of cubic feet of limestone and transport it to the site. Remember, the entire 400-foot building, we were told, was constructed in 3 years. There is zero room for error here in this insane mainstream narrative timeline. Now we have the granite, which they told us Henry number 2 would require over 1,000 cubic feet of. This would take several months to a year to get it all to the site in the 1800s. So just getting all of these materials to the site would be wrapped up in, let's say, a year in this supposed timeline. If everything went perfect, which we are fully aware at this point that this was always the case before we came along. There was never an issue for the horse and wagon community. And Henry can't build this thing himself in 2 years, once all the materials get there. So of course, he's going to need some construction workers, which we are never told about for some weird reason. But let's see what this would have looked like if the mainstream narrative ever told us the full truth. We would need skilled craftsmen, laborers, supervisors and engineers, specialized trades such as blacksmiths, glass workers, and artists. Then you have the equipment operators and support staff, such as, clerks and accountants, to make sure we don't go flying over the budget, and for proper documentation. Now, we have called the Illinois State Archives in episode 44, and we have proven that they do not keep records on these buildings. So what's going on here? Why aren't any of these extremely important people ever mentioned in the narrative? We are always given some magical architect, and in this case, multiple architects, both named Henry, but never anything else. Never a great artist, never an incredible engineer, and never a mention of any bookkeeper. You would think that one narrative would mention it, since these buildings are all incredible and still standing. And in this case, we have a building that was the tallest in the entire USA. Yet their website gives us none of this, and we are supposed to just accept it blindly. How about no? We are not just sitting around accepting the lie anymore. Let's ask their tool how long this would actually take. It should say 3 years, since that is how long we are told that it took. But if you follow actual logistics, following real construction protocol, and not fairy tale nonsense that we have been told, then you are going to get a very different answer, a much more honest answer, a much more logistical answer. And here we go. After everything that we have discussed, and also adding in that there are seasonal factors, Milwaukee weather is not the greatest for construction project in the winters. Work might have been suspended or slowed down during the winter months. Okay, so they most likely built it in less than 3 years because of the winter months. Interesting. Using actual logistics, asking real questions that need to be answered. Let's see who the AI ChatGPT agrees with. The mainstream history that we have been force-fed all of our lives, or us asking real logistical questions. Given these considerations, a realistic timeline for the construction of the Milwaukee City Hall in the late 19th century might have been around 5 to 7 years. And there we have it. Not even close to the 3-year mark. In fact, it is more realistic that it would have taken twice as long. Wow. We have done this a few times now where we ask the ChatGPT questions like this. And it becomes clearer and clearer that none of these buildings were ever built in less than 5 years. And the fact that this is what we're told gives it all away. That this is impossible, and that we are most likely spot on. That a previous, much more advanced civilization with incredible tools, and they did not ride around on horses and wagons, were the true builders of these old world structures. And our civilization is a bunch of founders that claim these buildings as our own. I don't think that the narrator ever thought that we would go through these narratives, dissecting them down to the smallest detail, asking questions that need to be answered for it to be true. It's incredible, all over the world. And I love that we are all seeing the truth now. This is a growing community by the day, because once you see it, you don't go back to unseeing it. The massive growth is proving that the lie is drowning, and we have had enough of it. We are finding the truth about our past. And the truth that this place that we live is incredible. It's filled with perfection, and we have been distracted from it for far too long. When you walk down the street, you will now see the previous civilization's work in your city, because they are honestly everywhere, and they deserve our attention. Henry Cobb, the first Henry that we were given, is a character that needs to be covered. Here we are given a list of buildings that Cobb is credited with knocking out over 100 years ago. There is one specifically that caught my eye, and that is the Chicago Federal Building. And let's take a look at this picture for a minute. We have shown this type of nonsense before, so let's do it again. They show this fake wagon sitting on the dirt road, with more people that are identical next to each other, in white. These are not real people. They are all photoshopped. If we zoom in on it, you can clearly see that they are duplicates. They are copy-pasted. And the other one is all glitched out. And who just stands in the middle of a road anyway? None of it fits in. You have a massive building, yet you have horse and wagon, and you have dirt roads. If it rains, the dirt is going to become so wet, and you will not be moving any limestone. Yet this was never an issue for the mainstream narrative. The dirt is always looking like it had just been raked and perfected for the photo. There's a dirt road down the street from my house, and they have to fix that thing all the time. Otherwise, there's massive holes in it. There are no holes in this picture. It's a perfect dirt road. I'm at the point where I'm going to say that this was prepared for the photo in our new civilization. The dirt is sitting on top of the past civilization's work. These buildings are under the dirt. They are much bigger than we can see. This is not the original road. It's all backwards. The road always comes first in construction because you need to be able to access the construction site. This is obvious stuff that the narrative ignores. Like we said, getting the materials there and the machinery would be nearly impossible with dirt roads and donkeys and wagons. If it snows or rains, then just forget about it. Other than a few fake people, a couple fake wagons and a light post. This is in Chicago, and we all know that Shalaga is not abandoned. There are literally no people in this photo. My point is that if this is true, that these are Photoshop people in wagons, which is looking more and more clear that this is the case, then was this the very first picture of this building for our current civilization to see? It's strange, especially when we hear the story about the building. The Chicago Federal Building. Look at the size of this thing. Constructed in just 7 years, of course. Well, I guess that's better than the last story, but come on. After 7 years, they still couldn't throw a road down? It's weird. And what is this? The 1905 building was demolished in 1965, only 50 years after its construction, and replaced by the Kluck-Ziske Federal Building. Are they joking? This building was outdated after 50 years? Oh, and here's the Kluck-Ziske building that is just bursting with architecture and incredible craftsmanship that our civilization is known for. The perfection of the 90-degree angles is just amazing. I don't even know how we pulled this kind of building off. I'm sure we needed many contests for this building. The winner was a pure genius, one of a kind. And all right, you get the point, that this thing is pathetic. I think that any one of us could have drawn this piece of trash up when we were 5. It's an embarrassment. And to knock down the brand new Chicago Federal Building for this is insane. Obviously, the Chicago Federal Building was not constructed by our civilization's timeline and was not brand new. And it also did not need to be replaced. And should we absolutely shred this nonsense? I honestly can't wait to say what I'm about to say. Here we go. The original Chicago Federal Building, with all of its incredible detail and architecture. We can see that it was obviously incredible. We don't need to ask anyone, and we see the difference between the old world's construction and our pathetic nonsense. Now, if we are a civilization of advancement and the mainstream science and narrative is true, then we would be evolving. Everything would be advancing, as they like to tell us we are. But we all know the narrative just told us it only took 7 years to construct the Chicago Federal Building, with a bunch of people that rode around on horses and wagons and no roads. So to construct this new piece of trash that was built with 0 ounces of stone that you don't need to transport from a quarry, this thing better have gotten done in like 6 months or less. So let's see how long. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. 14 years to build this box? So when we can all see the construction, it takes 14 years. But when we aren't around to see it and can't verify the dates, it's done in like 3 years or 7 years, in less than half of the time, and done with so much more artistic detail. This point alone should get everyone in the world to shake their heads at what we have been shown in our education system. How much clearer could it get that our history is a complete lie? This is insane when you really think about it. It's shocking. Now, we all understand that none of these buildings were constructed in less than 5 years. So when we dive deeper and are told that St. Andrew's Catholic Church, located in Virginia, was constructed in less than 2 years in 1900 to 1902, when this was their way of transportation, we know that there's something off with the mainstream narrative. And this is when you can go deeper. And we find an incredible construction photo. Are you all ready to see it? Oh, you gotta be kidding me. This building is done. That is not a construction photo. That is a completion photo. And this photo is coming directly from the church's website. Now I'm gonna show you how they do this, how they get away with using the same architect for so many old world buildings. This way they don't need to make a million characters. They find buildings that look similar, and then they use the same guy. And it doesn't even matter what state they're in. And we have shown this before. But this time it is unbelievable how many they try to get away with. So let's go find William P. Ginther, and we have found him. And we know this is the same guy because in the middle of the 113 old world buildings that are of the previous civilization's work that they are pinning on this guy, we have the St. Andrew's Church in Virginia. So this is definitely an interesting character, and very interesting that they wouldn't allow us to just click on his name. Let's take a look at a few of these buildings. And I'm sure we're gonna see a pattern that they are all incredible, with perfect architecture. Exactly like the Kuczynski building in Chicago. Just amazing. Oh, I mean, nothing like that. So let's just pick a random one and start with it. How about the St. Philip's Church in Craftsman, Pennsylvania? Okay, well, I think we can see where this is headed already. And to prove my point, let's go right on their website and see the detailed construction story. All of the details will be given that we need in order to fully trust them. So in 1898, a young priest came to St. Philip. His name was William, of course, because they have to repeat names. Because who else is named William? The architect. But let's continue. Between 1898 and 1953, Father William undertook a complete renewal and rebuilding program. So let's get this straight. 1898, this guy comes in and starts the renewal and rebuilding program. We all understand what renewal and rebuilding means, right? It means that there has to be something there already. Are they literally admitting that they did not construct this building right here? And they are taking credit for how it looks today by just calling it a rebuilding program? And this is embarrassing for them. I'm not trying to make fun of them, but come on. This is on their website. They say William number 2 is build of stone in cruciform design. Is build of stone? Let's get that corrected. St. Philip Catholic Parish in Pennsylvania. Let's throw a few more of these buildings on the screen and see what we've got from William number 2 and his master skills just for fun. Let's see what he's got going on all the way in California, since it's nowhere near Virginia and would be insane to have multiple projects like this going on at the exact same time in the 1800s. So let's check this one out. Santa Clara Parish in Oxnard, California. Okay, very interesting. Let's take a look at the inside. And of course, this is insane. Still standing today. And as long as it's left alone, They will be there forever. And so will all of the old world buildings. They are all built with perfection. Let's see a few more from William number 2. Let's take a look at Mother of Sorrows, Church and Rectory, located in Ashtabula, Ohio. Oh, right. So we have ourselves a castle. This is unbelievable. I'm gonna make an entire episode on this guy. It seems too weird to me that he is credited with all of these structures that are clearly not built by our civilization. There's definitely something off about all of these buildings. And I wonder how many Williams we could find hidden within these 113 buildings that are pinned to him. That might be fun to keep a running tally. I'm gonna wrap this episode up right here. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. I will be back very soon with much more. See ya.